All right. Hey, everybody. It's Chris here, Jesty with the MRC. Also with me today is Pirate, and we're going to be doing something different today. Say hi, Pirate.
Good evening.
We're going to be going over our experience in Tukkayid Heat, the most recent tournament that just concluded. Right now, we're arm deep into, well, elbow deep by now, into Solaris 7 Summer. But before the moments passed, we're going to go over our experiences in Tukkayid Heat and share how we felt the tournament went and how we did and all that. So let's go ahead and get right into it without any delay. So sorry if you were expecting another match review. We'll have one of those probably later in the week or something. But instead, you get to look at our beautiful mugs for the next hour or two. Maybe some maps or Mega Meg. So, Pirate?
Put voices to faces there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, I think everybody's seen you. You stream. I'm more of elusive.
You're like a trickle on the stream.
Oh, there you go. I like that. All right. So, Pirate, how did you feel going into the tournament? I mean, we just came off of what was March Madness. That was the last tournament. We had a month break. How did you feel going into Tukkayid Heat?
So, going into Tukkayid Heat, I was excited because it's Clan Invasion. It's also an era that I haven't played almost at all, but it's still important to the lore. And it's had some different rule sets, which I won't get into just yet. But, you know, a month break in between felt good. Get a bunch of ranked games in, some territory warfare for MRC. I think I did a big piratey thing with Diamond Sharks and Darkcast to try to take over some territory. But going into it, I had a really awesome, fun list built and then decided to scrap the whole thing one day before the deadline. So it was definitely one of those where I didn't really know what to expect, but the rules and the packet was so well done. I kind of did by the time I actually read it.
And it's funny you mentioned that you changed lists going into the tournament because I had a list well, a particular unit I had my heart set on using. And then people started talking crap about my chonky boy, the behemoth. So I ended up switching lists within like a week or two before the tournament. And it worked out for me, realistically. But yeah, I was planning on going a completely different route and just made a left turn at the last minute based off some offhand comments and some memes and decided to go with it. And you know, the list performed well.
Yep, I think mine did pleasantly surprise too. But you know, when we get to list building, I'll cover exactly what we did in detail. But that's kind of the YOLO warrior spirit of don't practice it, just go. This is going to be awesome. I've never played some of these mechs before, but we're going to run it.
Actually, I think I did quite a bit of practice going into Tukkayid Heat. Now that I think about it, because we had a whole month of downtime in between March Madness and Tukkayid Heat, so I was like, well, I might as well practice some mechs that I've never used or that I haven't used before and see how they work. So I know I got quite a few games in with Nitro and Luke when they were first getting into MRC, really, because they had just missed March Madness.
Well, and I was still coming off a high from getting Twilight Heat done, getting March Madness done. So it was like, yeah, I'm ready for another tournament. You know, we're getting real good things going here. I'm pumped.
Yeah, we had a pretty good gap between Twilight Heat and then going into March Madness. It was like what, 2 or 3 months of no tournament.
Yeah, it ended in the first part of January, and then we didn't start again until March. So it was a good 2.5 months.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there were of course in-person games or other games that we had going on there, but as far as MRC tournaments, it was a little bit of a gap. But with that being said, anything else about the pre-tournament setting or before we actually get into talking about the tournament itself? Just the environment that we were in at the time.
Going into it, I was excited because we'd seen the tournaments that Carbon and Warning had put together, which had been fun, and Vapor had his first tournament by that point, March Madness, which was different than the standard MRC setup, but still followed the core rules. So it was exciting to see how a different tournament organizer approached a lot of these things and some of the ways they tackled different challenges and issues. So I was excited just to see somebody else give their take on how an event should be run.
Oh yeah, it was real interesting. I think Sam did a great job, getting everything together. He had a good amount of time to prep, and he used all the time he had to prep. I know he was bouncing ideas off of people, sending out testing score sheets and stuff. He was doing a lot of groundwork to get this tournament off the ground, and it really shows in the final results that his work was that he put into the tournament paid off for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think a tournament of the size that ended up occurring could happen without that planning.
Yeah, yeah. So, speaking of the tournament, anything else before we go ahead and get into the package? Maybe.
Now let's start doing a rip and tear into it.
Yeah. So, of course, it's Tukkayid Heat. It's Tukkayid themed. It's not a re. It's not actually the Battle of Tukkayid that we were doing. We were kind of doing like a reenactment of Tukkayid. So, pretty much every MUL in Clan Invasion era was fair game. Like I played Clan Goliath Scorpion for my MUL, which never took part in Tukkayid, the original Battle of Tukkayid, but they were fair game for the tournament, which I thought was really cool. Nice touch.
Yeah, I wish we saw more like that. And I don't regret doing what I did, but I do wish we saw more like fire mandrills. I know nobody wants them back, but some of these other slightly underloved MULs and clans, seeing them give a chance to shine because we always see the invading clans. We don't really see the homeworld clan much. So it was nice to see you take Goliath Scorpion before they just became this periphery monster.
Oh yeah, the looming threat out in the reaches of civilization. Originally, my list was going to be Star Adder, I think, because they had the Blood Asp, but alas, I changed last minute.
That's fair.
But yeah, I think he did a really good job with the package. It was pretty thorough. There was a lot of information in it. He had the list building laid out. He had the objectives and the missions laid out pretty good. Overall, it was pretty clear and concise, as concise as a tournament packet can be.
Yeah, I've seen some event packets where it was you can tell the person is a player because they're excited to tell you how to play it, but then they forget all those little details about, well, if this happens, this is what you do, or this is what happens, how we're going to rule this, or this thing is going to be uncertain, so here's how we're going to treat it. A lot of those minutia were definitely answered in advance, or what few hot fixes were needed were dumped in there quickly. But yeah, no, he definitely took a very fine comb to what if situations.
Oh yeah, the list or the package was pretty comprehensive. I mean, we tested the heck out of it in that month prior to it launching. So any questions that could have cropped up probably did during that month of testing.
Correct.
Now, one thing did spend a lot of time doing was the score sheet. I know it took him a couple iterations to get it just right, I think after the tournament launch, he had to make some extra changes in order to make sure. I think the round three scoring was proper. But that score sheet was amazing. All you had to do was fill out a little bit of drop downs that were self explanatory. Even then, he made a video explaining how to do it, which was great, especially for people like me who can barely work a computer. It's a glorified gaming console for me. But it was by far the easiest score submittal I've ever seen for the MRC so far, other than the ranked game form, which is pretty easy as well, especially with the aid that you created.
Well, thank you. But also, having seen non-MRC score sheets, this was very easy because instead of having to calculate what is the BV of that mech, what is the BV of that mech, what is the pilot skills here, or even in some Alpha Strike events where we've had to put down the PV of mechs and destroyed and whatever the objectives may have been, if there's multiple, it was nice to see it just, did this mech die? Yes, no. Is it enforced withdrawal? Yes, no. And you even choose your opponent, so their list is already populated. You don't have to put in, was that an archer or a longbow? It's there.
Which model?
Oh yeah, well, okay. My opponent's already logged off or he's left for the day. I think maybe it was a 7Q. You don't have to worry about that.
So, how did you feel about having access to pretty much every single list that was possible that you could go up against? in the tournament right there at your fingertips. At any moment, you could just look at what I was playing or what, Nitro was playing or whoever.
So I really like that for a few reasons. One, if we were doing something in person, I could just walk around and see the lists, like they're not really hidden. Two, I did take something a little memey, so it was nice to hear people go, "What the frig?" when they saw it. But also, like, it's important, I think, part of the overall MRC to have people um, to have different experiences and learn from different things. So I really hope somebody took that score sheet and said, you know what, I really want to learn more about list building. I'm going to go look at all these wonderful lists someone has built and the way they challenge things with different mechs, different models, different compositions. So I really thought that was a tool that hopefully others have used. Anybody with the sheet, please do use it to really test out some variants that you didn't think of taking, especially if you saw they performed well. Man, go use those mechs and see why somebody decided to take that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's a great resource. I even went through lists and was like, "Oh wow, that is nasty," or "Oh, I've never seen that variant before." And I think it's a great tool. That was a lot of back end work that Sam did before the tournament even launched. That he put in just to making the score sheet. So kudos to that. That was by far one of my favorite parts of the tournament.
You know, one of the first things I did though when I got that score sheet and I could see the other lists, went through and I was like, does anyone have a list heavier than mine? Yeah, even though I could have used it for a lot of different things, I used it to go try to size people up and be like, all right, who's got the chunk boys?
Well, did you have the heaviest list? I'm not sure. I know a couple of other people brought quite a few assault mechs.
I did not. I was definitely probably in top five, but there was at least two lists heavier than mine.
Ah, okay. I could see that. Taking Intersphere assaults versus the 3 clan assaults that you took.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. But the score sheet was great. The package was great. Now, Sam did something nobody was expecting, I think, with the first couple of rounds of pairings. And he put people into pods of like maybe 6 to 8 people each in a pod. That way they could help out and get games arranged. That way you had your own private little channel to schedule your games because you have a whole week to play each game. And well, in this case, we had 2 weeks because he set you up for the first 2 rounds. So you had 2 weeks and you could play any of your first 2 games in any order, which was, I thought, pretty genius. It's not really Swiss pairing at that point, but I think it's a good compromise because you do get more time to schedule your games, and some people like to just sprint and get their games out of the way that we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. So it was four people. So if you had a pot of four, it's you plus two of your opponents, then an odd man out. So it was nice to be able to say, hey, I'm going to be busy next week. Can we go ahead and get these games out of the way? Or, like you said, going, you know what? This just got announced. Cool. We're starting, we're scheduling. I don't have time until this weekend, and I only play weekends. So let's go ahead and schedule it then. And if something comes up, well, cool. I've got a whole extra week to try to get these games in. That was a nice way to avoid the last minute pressure of, oh, we got to get them in. Our schedules don't align, or somebody's staying up super late or waking up early, etc. Especially with the just sheer amount of time zones we have in MRC now. Um, I think that was a good move.
Yeah, I agree completely. I liked it quite a bit, and I'm actually very glad that Vapor adopted it for his tournament. And he took it one step further, and his tournament had a nice equal number of players to do it. And he scheduled everybody's games throughout the entire tournament. So I've already played 3 of my games for that tournament. I only need to play you, surprisingly, which we can do eventually, maybe later this week or so. But it was real easy to schedule games that way.
Yeah, it's June 6th. This tournament runs through the entire month of June. We could sit on our rears for another 20 days and still have plenty of time.
Yeah, but I'm impatient. I can't wait that long. What are you doing
I'm
after the podcast, Pirate?
building up climactic suspense for you.
Damn. All right. Uh,
But no,
so
I think the other benefit of the pods was, let's take a look at March Madness and Twilight Heat. Both of those, I didn't know this, but apparently it's rude to, or in some cases, rude to send a DM to someone without asking permission first on Discord. Um,
wow.
some servers have that. I guess that's to prevent, bullying, harassment, or, taking things to the side and causing drama, which I could easily see drama being caused in Discord.
Yeah, that's surprising actually. I didn't know that was a faux pas. I always just bug people like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing? Hey, hey, what's up?" So, I
Uh,
mean, I'm guilty of that too. So,
yeah, I didn't know it either until someone called it out, and I was like, okay, I could see that. So what happened was everybody in Twilight Heat was posting in the Twilight Heat sub channel to schedule their matches. Everybody in March Madness was posting in March Madness to schedule their matches. By having those pods, it kind of took a lot of that chatter and planning and put it somewhere where people can find messages. That way, they're not going, "Oh, I didn't see your message 17 to 40 messages up yesterday, so I missed you trying to schedule this."
yeah, it's a lot harder to get lost in the sauce with, 5 or 6 people than it is with, 20 people. So, yeah, that was definitely a huge factor. So, moving on, next, the other interesting thing that, Sam did with this is the maps and the way they're set up. So, here, I'll pull over Megamex so you can stop looking at our beautiful faces real quick. But, he did have a 3 map system, and they were standard 16 by 17 maps, and you could whoever won the initial roll off could arrange the maps either horizontally like this or vertically. If you did it horizontally, thank you, because it's a lot better for an observer to watch a game like this than it is to have to scroll up and down constantly on the vertical stack maps. But I do appreciate the option to go vertical or horizontal depending on what is better for your list.
Now, what do you think of this comment I have though, which is that um, if you stacked it a certain way for the convenience of everybody playing, that's probably just a good guy move, but it's still a competitive tournament. So if you wanted to stack it a different way to give you an edge, that should be considered faux pas at all. I think if you had mechs that you're like, hey, my strategy is built on it being stacked this way versus that, or I'm trying to deny my opponent something, it's totally legit for you to say, I'm going to, suggest we play it this way because I won the roll off and this gives me a slight edge.
Oh yeah, by all means. You won that roll off. You take your advantage for winning that roll off. I thought it was great. You could also pick your home edge map, which was very big for some players and some lists and strategies. So if the maps were big enough with the 1 by 3 in either direction, that you could actually utilize a sniper mech properly instead of the smaller maps that we're used to playing on with Tukkayid and Twilight Heat. I'm sorry, with March Madness and Twilight Heat, where a sniper mech is going to get run down within a turn or two, maybe 3 by a slower brawler.
Well, another thing is, I didn't know this until my last match, the King of the Hill. You can rotate the boards, which makes sense because you can do that in person. So I actually was trying to calculate out doing the whole big brain move of, well, what map gives me the best advantage? Hold on. If I rotate this, then I can move in from the deployment zone and I can get to the center objective sooner. So it was definitely interesting to find out you could do that. I had no idea.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, there was a limited map pool. It was, I think, what intro box, a game of armored combat, and I think the clan invasion box were the only legal maps you could pick from. So the pool was known. You could dig through the pool, look at each and every single one, and find one that fit your list, which I did. I used, I think, Badlands 2 or something for almost every match where I won the roll off. And I went vertical because I had a big, scary sniper mech.
Yeah, basically anything that's in one of the boxes behind me somewhere over there on that shelf where you could pull out a map and be like, here is a map that I have physically in my hand from one of the box sets. those are the ones that you could use, and that makes it more friendly, but also it prevents some of the pre-random generated obstructions that can sometimes come when you get a map and you're like, I don't know about this, but you
Yeah,
know,
you get a lake on your side, and your opponent gets like the perfect sniper forest on their side, which I've seen happen a few times. So, I mean, there's no feels bad moments. Everybody knows what possible maps there are, and Grasslands 1 is always the center map to make it a semi-open, even field for everybody.
and it prevented the need for the re-roll if you did have a crap map that we have in the NFL variant.
Yeah, and a lot of people do not utilize their reroll when they probably should.
I
So,
probably shit on you on that one the other day with that bullcrap lake that completely swamped my runner list, and you had this 19 elevation crap to snipe me from with clam lasers, but that's besides the point.
hey, that hill messed me up too. For some reason, my entire map was asphalt. I have no idea how that happened, and I lost a Honku from skidding through that. All right.
There's a comment in there about asphalt and what I think about you in that map, but we'll see.
Hey, to be fair, your big old scary Sphinx fell into depth 1 water, and I couldn't touch it while it was prone and immobile. So, count your blessings.
It's all good.
Yeah, that was a fun match though. But anyways,
That one.
let's go ahead and get into I think our lists now. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about before we get right into our tournament experience.
So the only thing I can think of before that was just that the sheer volume of people that signed up, I think caught everyone off guard. We were probably expecting closer to like 16 would be a really cool number to have. What did we hit, like 37 or 39 signed up?
We had 36 initially sign up, 34 actually play games, and I think 32 finished the tournament completely. If I recall, I think Sam said 2 people had to drop out for personal reasons or, time commitments, whatever. It happens. We understand. We're all adults and we all have real lives. But 32 people is huge. That's probably the biggest tournament we've had.
Yeah, I mean, and besides that, at Southern Assault, there was 54 players doing Alpha Strike, and it was, hey, this may be the biggest BattleTech tournament in the last, you know, 10 years.
Yeah.
So Tukkayid Heat having 34 in its classic, it might have been the biggest classic one. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
when record started.
Yeah, maybe in like a decade or so. I know in Vegas we only had about 12 people for the BTCC LVO. I don't know how many they had at what was it, Adepticon for the Kickstarter launch, but I know it wasn't 32 for Classic.
If you need to order less than 4 pizzas to feed everybody at an event, we definitely had a lot more for Tukkayid Heat. I'm really proud of people choosing to sign up. And I wonder if it being Mega Mech, where you don't have to buy the models, you don't have to paint them, you don't have to physically bring them, you don't have to go to an event, you don't have to rent a hotel, you don't have to do all these out of pocket expenses. I mean, Funk Soul, we love you, man, but you're in Australia. Like, we'd have never been able to meet in person just for a BattleTech tournament. So I think that barrier of entry by doing it in Mega Mech definitely increased the number of people that could join.
Oh yeah, the fact that it's online means our growth is, unlimited realistically. The more people we can get involved, the more players we can have in every tournament going forward, which is what we really want to see. More players playing games. That's the whole goal of the MRC.
And we're learning every time somebody joins. Vapor bringing Arrow 4 against me one day, and I went, what the heck is that? And then Nitro just this other day, it's like, hey, what about these dead fire missiles? Are these allowed? Oh my gosh, those things are brutal. Sacred, you and tandem charges, and that's just alternate ammo before we get to the people telling us about how to do maps and settings and other things. So
Yeah, not including protomechs, which Vapor wants to test out, which are now legal for season 3 of MRC, I think, going forward. Not to
we
mention all the vehicles and VTOLs and all those other things that are come along with it.
and we need more people playing proto mechs. I'll admit to having not actually played them because there's just so many more mech variants I want to run. I'm like that what was it, that old eHarmony commercial? I just can't hug every mech. You know, I need to get more proto time into.
Yeah, I know. I owe Vapor a match with some proto mechs that I definitely have a list built that I'm not procrastinating on building on.
I'll just start taking one of each. You know what? Get six of them. Just roll a d6. Which one am I going to take today? I don't know. Two. All right. Rock, a Hydra, a well, that's a cock die. You know.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'll finish that later today. Hopefully, maybe we'll see. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into our lists, and we'll pull up Megamech like we did earlier because we've got our list pulled up here, so we can go ahead and talk about them. So, since you have the most meme lord of meme lord lists possible, I'll go ahead and let you talk about your list first.
So this is my original list. This is not the list that I ended up with, but essentially, after Twilight Heat, where I took something particularly nasty and I was like, I want to show all the skills I've learned with all the different things I've learned. And it was, I got told unfun to play against by several people. So I learned from that. March Mechnus, I took some 4-4 pilots. I hate running 4 gunnery because it feels like you're just missing a lot of shots.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah, so it's one of those where if you're used to playing 3-4s and you drop down, it's hard. But I wanted to test a different play style. I'm like, I'm really interested in pushing limits, so took some 4-4s, thugs, awesomes, and marauders. But I was like, I'm gonna have more fun with this. It's clan invasion. I really want to make a Met Commander themed list. So here I've got the mechs from Mech Commander Gold, Desperate Operations or Desperate Measures, the expansion pack, where Zulu Company is fighting against the Smoke Jags that are, post Operation Bulldog. They're destroyed. They're trying to rebuild and steal a bunch of nuclear weapons and tried to RP some of that into the tournament.
oh yeah. Your after action reports were glorious, by the way.
Thank you. I tried. Um, so I wanted to take the Turkina C because that's, the quintessential bad guy mech. It's the mech of Commander or Star Colonel Marcus Cotere in the game. And then, well, okay, I've got an assault mech at almost 4K and I've got 7.5K left. Um, I remember the Uller being a little S that would jump out of nowhere and surprise people. I'm going to take a jumpy Uller, which the S just tended to be one that worked.
Oh
So,
yes, not bad. 696.
yeah, so this one, it's got a large pulse, a medium pulse, a small pulse, some machine guns, and a streak 6, or sorry, streak 4. So it's not the meanest thing on the block, but it reminded me a lot of the game when you see, like, you're walking and, oh no, you're being ambushed. So I got him. I got the Turkina C, or sorry, you got the Cougar there. Yeah, so I got the Turkina C. I picked this one because it intentionally I didn't want to just take a pulse boat, even though it ended up having 2 large pulse lasers and 2 medium pulse lasers. There's an even cheesier Turkina in there, but it's also got a Streak 6. It's got an LBX-20, some flamers, machine guns. Like it's just kind of all over the place. So in playtesting, it against the many, 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 many people that wanted to fight, um, it was really fun to play with. It wasn't the most effective one, but it was fun to play with. So I was like, all right, I'm taking this. And then a Cougar, I always loved the Cougar. Cougar's my favorite mech from Mech Warrior 4, and it happened to be in Mech Commander. So the Prime kind of fit in there, walking dual large pulse lasers. Yeah, we're going to take that. So that was my original list.
Pretty solid. I actually am going to be using the Cougar Prime at NashCon.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good trooper mech. Again, for its BV, walking large pulse laser is never a bad thing.
Oh yeah, really efficient. Real cheap actually for the BV.
Yeah, the problem with this list though is it's imbalanced. So what was happening every time, like at least 5 of the like 15 times I ran this, that Turkina C would get a through armor crit and his gyro would pop off, or if somebody would hit the machine gun ammo, or a headshot. So I kind of went behind the scenes and went, mathematically, that Turkina C is going to get the tar chewed out of it every time because it is the threat. So I need to spread the damage out. Man, wouldn't it be nice if I had more armor or meat in here? Let's go with Sacred Defiler's method of just heavy metal. Uh, oops. Wait, hang on. I can do that. So, this is the list I ended up with. I took that Turkina, added a Direwolf, added a Warhawk H. Direwolf was an A, and okay, I just added 2 more Assault Mechs to my list. I did the math, and I was like, and I was literally messaging Nitro. I was like, hold on, what do you think about this? What if I took a bunch of pulse lasers and stood still? Then I could drop my gunnery and piloting skill down a lot, but still be able to hit on like 4s. He did a quick test for me one day, and I was like, I'm not even testing the rest of this list. We're gonna submit it, and we're gonna play 6/6 ogres here.
So you went 6 gunnery, 6 piloting down the line on all 4 of your mechs. You ended up at 74, 79 battle value, which is pretty damn close to max.
You know, want to know an even funnier thing? Nope, that put me over. Yeah, so that was actually like the max I could have gone.
That is a thing of beauty.
Yeah,
So
but okay.
I was gonna say, so you want to get into the rest of your ogres besides the sea?
Yeah, so the Direwolf A, because I literally went to Mega Mech and was scrolling through, right, who's got a bunch of medium pulses or a bunch of large pulses. This Direwolf happened to have 3 large pulses, uh, and a Gauss rifle, and 2 Streak 6s because why not? So my goal with this was stand still or walk, use the pulse lasers to get that -2 to hit. And if somebody got too close, well, I can just kick you as well. And I have pulse laser legs, -2 on a kick for 100 tons. 20 damage to a leg is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, that direwolf is extremely scary, especially once you close the gap and those pulse lasers can start bringing you back down to reasonable gunner levels.
Yeah, the only thing I regret is I blacked out at least once because of the anti-missile system ammo exploding. I've got
Oh no.
Yeah, I've got 24 rounds times 3. And I think Lee Enfield pointed that out to me. I should have dumped 2 of those rounds on like round 1.
Oh yeah, I mean our matches are only 15 turns long. There's zero reason to have that many. You know, for like what 60 rounds right there, 60 plus rounds, 72 I think
Yeah,
worth of anti missile. And
yes,
actually, the same could probably be said for your Streak 6 ammo. I mean, since they're streaks, you could definitely get away with only 1 ton of 15 rounds of shots that actually connect.
correct. I never even ran close to running out of ammo. So could have dumped some ammo. I did know to dump it on the Turkina because I was dumping it on the Uller before. But yeah, should have dumped some more ammo on the Direwolf A.
Either way, still a very scary mech.
Oh, it's a bully. So the Turkina can jump. That's its specialty. The Direwolf can just have chonk and presence and field domination. The Warhawk H, I could have gotten something different, which would have probably been more pulse boat effective, but I wanted a different chassis. So the Warhawk H here is 2 large pulse lasers, which, okay, we're off to a good start. LRM-10, which, take it or leave it, didn't really do much other than have range. 2 heavy, large lasers. Do you know the amount of times that I've fired those on 10s and 11s and actually connected on something was terrifying? And if nothing else, they were good for getting rid of shrubbery and trees in front of me.
Yeah, that is a whole lot of damage in each laser. I think it's what 16 per laser. They're both head cappers.
It's either 16 or 18, one of the two. If it's 18 heat, it's probably 16 damage. But they're also
Yeah.
backed up by a targeting computer. So this boy actually is more like a 3-4 pilot instead of a 6-6 when you take kicking and pulse and targeting computer into effect.
Yeah, so this one was gonna be your sniper, basically, landing those hits at decent target numbers because that targeted computer drops you down that one little extra bit. I bet he hit quite a bit more often than the rest of your mechs.
He definitely did. And when I really needed to close in for a kill, I mean, he is my fastest assault mech at 4-6. So I've got a I've got a 3-5, a 3-5, and a 4-6. So it was, the Turkina can jump, but realistically, that Warhawk was that was my backup runner in the probe mission. But he was the one where if somebody went prone or blacked out, I sent him charging straight in there because I knew that heavy, large laser hitting literally anywhere would do catastrophic damage to whatever it hit.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Those heavy larges are no joke.
Um, Last boy on this list is a Locust 3C3. I had some BV left over, or can't fit another assault mech in for 800 BV. And I needed a runner for the probe mission. My first thought was, you know what, Dasher H. Um, but then I thought, well, everyone's taking Dasher H's probably. Let's
Hey,
take,
I'm sorry, I only took one, okay?
you know. Well, this I was trying to add spice. It's not pumpkin spice season, but I was trying to add some sort of spice to this. So Locust 3, it has pulse lasers. It fits the theme. So two small pulse lasers and an ER large laser, which I think maybe hit once in the entire tournament, but that's not his purpose. This was my runner, my little harasser and poker, but initiative sync, if nothing else. Let's be real about it. But he was a fun one to run against, and generally helped me get initiative for my big boys to move into position.
Oh, yeah, I mean, 2 small pulse lasers is not bad, and an ER large at point blank and something's viewer arc is gonna hurt, so,
Yeah,
uh
I think one match I actually like headshot somebody and blacked him out from that ER large pulse. It might have been King of the Hill as well.
yeah, the range on that ER large laser is insane. He was actually probably the longest range mech in your list, surprisingly.
Yeah, Fear the Locust. That'd be a cool band name. We should start a band, Justy.
Oh, hell yeah, I can terribly play bass.
I'm not sure which instrument, where to get instruments, but we'll find some place. Maybe Goodwill.
But yeah, so how do you feel about the list you ended up taking overall? I mean, 6'6", chonky boy, Mimi, goodness.
I wanted something that was fun to play against. I wanted something that was different than what everyone else was bringing. So someone had a completely different experience, and I wanted to give them a how would I deal with that? Like something's up here. What am I going to do with this? I think I hit most of those. Gave people a nice interactive challenge where they're like, I have to think about this list rather than those are good mechs. Let me fight good mechs with good mechs.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, definitely. It's a puzzle to dismantle for sure.
yeah, most people picked up pretty easy. Okay, there's 6 pilots. If I knock them over, they're going to struggle to get up. Amazingly, rolling a 6+ to stand, even with careful stand turned off, which, I should have known, but caught me off guard on the first game. But 6+ to stand is still a 72% chance. So the amount of times these guys stood up when I was expecting them to fall flat on their rears was amazing. I think maybe they fell like a total of twice through the whole campaign.
That is stunningly surprising. I mean, you'd think with a 6 piloting, I mean, I feel dirty running a 5 usually, but running a 6, you would be flopping around left and right.
Yeah, I anybody that hit me with 20 damage, it was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can make this roll. And several times they would fall, but surprisingly, they stood up decent enough. But every time they fall, they lose movement. They could take a piloting check. There's a lot of bad things that happen. So that was kind of the gimmick was if you can kick them, especially, or hit them hard enough, there's a pretty good chance you can cause catastrophic damage to them. And the people that pressured me the hardest were the ones that could induce PSRs.
And yeah, that makes sense. But seeing your list in action actually made me rethink the way I go about list building because I was expecting you to perform nowhere near as well as you did. So for NashCon, I'm actually running every single mech at 3-5, considering how rarely you actually failed piloting rolls with a 6. I think I'm going to try doing 5s and see how it works out.
Hey, I'm glad I can demonstrate a proof of concept that paid off. I intentionally didn't try to take the meanest, baddest thing, but accidentally made a pretty decent list. So I'm really happy with how that played out. The only thing I'm not happy with is in order to play this list effectively, you're doing a lot of standing still. So my game against Lee Enfield, my game against Cataphract 40, they were awesome sports, but both of those matches, it was kind of like, all right, I want to run up to the edge of my deployment zone and stand and just shoot large pulse lasers at you until you die. And that wasn't the most fun experience, I think, for either side. But it kind of reminds me of that Zoidberg episode where, you know, he's just standing still doing absolutely nothing. And they're like, oh, it's hard to keep up with the tension in the moves. It's going too fast. Like for me, standing still was effective. It's very different than how I play, so I enjoyed playing a different style. But it was definitely not the most flamboyant or entertaining match, I think, for anybody playing against.
I could see that being the case. It was definitely interesting to try and dismantle the heavy mechs. It was like a gamble, you know. Every time you hit, ooh, can I get a through armor crit? Oh, can I penetrate his center torso armor or what have you? Before his overwhelming firepower, that isn't really hitting all that often, but when it does hit, it really hurts, overwhelms you.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Those large pulse lasers, the Gauss rifle hit quite often. They'll do the holes if the heavy large doesn't. I can fire, well, let's put it this way, that Turkina, I can fire almost everything and not overheat every turn. The Direwolf, I can fire everything and run every turn heat neutral. And the Warhawk, I fire a heavy large, maybe it hits, two large pulses and the LRM-10 every turn and run if I needed to and not overheat. So it was kind of like I'm going to punch a bunch of holes. Then I got all these medium pulses, machine guns, and streak 6s and 4s to, start crit seeking on all these inner sphere mechs that don't have case.
yeah, no, that's just a lot of chances to roll those 9s, 10s, and 11s that you needed, and eventually you're going to hit those numbers. I mean, just the sheer amount of firepower heading their way, something's going to land.
Correct. And it definitely performed. I was thinking I'd be like, towards the bottom of the pack, but it definitely performed pretty well.
Oh, nice. I'm glad that you actually enjoyed playing the list to an extent and that you performed well with it. It was really interesting to see the fact that it did perform well as a proof of concept.
Now, to use a quote from Johnny Bravo, enough about me. What about you?
Wahoo! Oh, I love Johnny Bravo. All right. So, getting into it, this was probably going to be my original list that I was going to take before people decided to bad talk my boy. So,
Behemoth sucks.
no, it doesn't. And I proved it. Damn it.
Correct.
All right. So, this is a Blood Asp. It's the Blood Asp D. It's got a real funky weapon setup. It's got 3 Ultra AC2s, a Gauss rifle, 2 ER larges, and 2 heavy mediums. So this was going to be my sniper. It was going to be the anchor that slowly waddles up a little bit at 3-4, and just sits back and rains fire throughout the whole match. On probe, it wasn't going anywhere near the edge of my deployment zone. It was just going to sit back and rain fire from afar. Those UAC 2s can reach out ridiculously far. I could easily hit, I should say, someone from their map sheet from halfway through my map sheet. And I think in a test game against Nitro, I created an ammo bin on something as it was closing the distance before we even got in range to fire. So there's definitely crit seeking capabilities with this. It doesn't have ammo to go full auto every turn, but you don't really need that much ammo to go full auto every turn. It's got 45 shots, so I could either single fire every turn of the match, assuming that it survives for all 15 turns, or I could go full auto for 6 or 7 turns and double tap with every single one every turn and not worry about it. Because once you close range, the UACs are generally going to be under minimum range, so then you can bring those heavy mediums to bear.
I'm a strong component of, if you've got UACs, not double tapping every single turn is a missed opportunity, because if you have limited ammo, okay, I kind of get that, but you also have limited armor. So what are you going to run out of first, the armor or the ammo?
Exactly.
And another trick is, if you don't have ammo, it can't explode.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, it is a clan mech, but the ammo wasn't the right torso. So if that went kaboom, the mech was basically done because it would be in force withdrawal at that point.
I'm going to start calling armor pips the armo.
Even better. All right, so that's the anchor of the list. In a test match against Brad, he headshot it with a Gauss rifle turn 1, and it went real south real quick because it was just, as you can see, basically half my battle value. Next mech is the Dragonfly Viper Prime. This is a classic. It's a Jump 8 boy, 812-8, 20 double heat sinks, SRM4, 2 medium pulse lasers, 2 machine guns, and an AMS. This is probably arguably one of the best Vipers out there. It's the Prime. Usually the Prime variants are hit or miss. This one's definitely a hit, if you ask me.
And does that thing jump 8 like the others?
Yes, it does. So he's a fast boy. I ended up taking a different Viper in the list I actually ran, but we'll get into that in a bit. Now, this was my little pocket sniper. He was going to be the Blood Asp's little buddy. It's actually an Uller, similar to the Uller you were going to run on your other list. But this one's got dual large pulses and dual medium pulses. It doesn't have the heat sinks to fire both of those larges every turn. It's kind of like a Cougar Prime, but it does have dual medium pulses. So once they get into range, you can drop the large pulse and fire those 2 medium pulses every turn and be relatively heat efficient. The only problem is the armor on this thing is just not there. 9 in the center torso is not great. So a clan large pulse laser will go internal.
So this is a clan Jaeger mech.
Yeah, clan laser Jaeger mech, pretty much.
There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely a glass cannon and something that needs to be protected by that Blood Asp.
I really like that. I'm going to have to play with him some.
Yeah, me too. I would have taken it, but I had a Cougar Mini and not a spare Uller Mini, so I decided to go with the Cougar Prime instead for NashCon.
Fair.
All right, next up is the Arctic Cheetah A. I am actually bringing one of these to NashCon. I like this mech. It's 812-6. It's got pretty paper armor, 8 in the center torso and 8 in the right and left torso, so not much, but even across the torsos. But it's a backstabber through and through. It's got 2 streak 6s, a flamer, and a small pulse laser. You need to get in close and mix it up. He's not going to be brawling or going toe-to-toe with anything. His job is to get to that back line and hide as you're running or jumping your way up there, and then get in something's rear arc and make them have a very bad day. Preferably an inner sphere mech that has ammo that you can, crit seek with those 2 streak 6s.
The other good thing about a mech like that is, if you can kick with it in someone's rear, especially if they don't have any arm-mounted weapons, you can still mess up their day while being relatively protected. So even these little guys that are pretty weak on the armor, they can still backstab, and if you're really good at choosing your targets and you have the time to actually choose a target, um, you should be able to do really well with getting some nice PSRs and not getting shot in return.
Yeah, agreed. In some of my practice games, this Arctic Cheetah was actually my MVP, getting into rear arcs of like something like a Jaeger mech or a Blackjack or Nitro's Naginata that he likes to run and crit
Yeah,
seeking that ammo.
screw that Naginata. I mean, I'm really glad it's making it, and it is really good, but man, having faced that thing, screw that Naginata.
Yeah, that is a scary boy for sure. So this is the list I actually ended up with. Let me go to my proper Goliath Scorpion colors here.
Also, plus 10 cool points for your pilot names.
Oh, why, thank you. Had a little theme here. I mean, you had a very good theme as well with your Smoke Jaguar lore focus there with Colonel Marcus Cotere. Look him up, boys and girls.
The remainder two, Catherine Fury and Marcus Osis, were actually canonical to the video game, which is not canonical. And then the last one, his cockpit basically smelled of ammonia for the near misses that he had every time, so he went insane by that point.
Chemical poisoning will do that to you.
Oh, yeah, but I'm looking at this, and you have two of my go-to mechs every time they're available already, the Dasher H and the Sun Bear, but man, let's talk about Mr. Chonky here.
Okay, so Chonkius Maximus here, or Maximus Chonkius, whatever. It's vice versa for him. This was the anchor uh of my list. As you can tell, it's 3200 battle value, 3208 to be precise, and it's basically half the list. It's 353. It's got those jump jets for added movement like your Turkina, and it's got 2 large pulse lasers and 3 ER large lasers and not quite enough heat sinks to shoot them all every turn. I had to basically do 2 large pulses and 2 ER larges, and then if I stood still, I could fire all 5 of those big long range weapons and then cool off for a turn by dropping another one the following turn. So from afar, I could throw out 50 damage, 50 to 40 damage almost every turn. And
Well,
then when you close the distance, I can bring that small pulse into effect after if I drop an ER large and decide to start jumping because you're getting into a little too close to me.
you've got no ammo and you paid for the whole heat scale. You might as well use it.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm a firm believer in air conditioning, so I tend to not overheat my mechs too bad. I try to stay between 4 and 6 maximum heat before I start to cool off the next turn.
No worries.
Unless the mech is going to go down or is about to get uh, jumped by 3 giant assault mechs and your list right next to him, then he might as well go full bore and fire everything.
I'll get your pilots one of those little battery operated fans to clip onto their shoulders.
Anything helps when you're in there, believe me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that is the anchor of this list. A very big, very scary sniper. The amount of armor on this thing is just ridiculous. It's 46 in the center torso. I would just stand him still out in the open and say, "Come at me, bro." And half the time, people did not, in fact, choose to come at him.
No, there's a lot softer targets, but the fact is he could do a lot of positional dominance there and probably line up a lot of good shots because he didn't need to keep meandering or get TMMs.
Yeah, and I only had a 4 gunnery, so it wasn't spectacular. But with the 2 large pulses, I could hit pretty reliably at pretty long range, especially against something slow that's not moving very fast.
You're in good company with low gunnery pulse laser lists here.
Yeah, most of my list was actually 4-5 or 4-4 across the board. So the next biggest chonky boy, who's just regular chonky, is the Sun Bear Prime. Now, I have to say, this mech was definitely my MVP for sure. This is one of the hidden gems that I found. I fell in love with this mech after using it in Tukkayid Heat, and I liked it so much I decided to use it in my Solaris 7 list as well. And it's been performing consistently in Solaris 7 as well. Yeah, you can ask Vapor and Illyrian. I have yet to play you with it. So don't focus my Sun Bear when we play, please.
Don't worry, my Gravedigger spooky themed meme list will have a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will. I forgot what mission we need to do. Oh, it's the charging one. Oh shit.
Oh, even better.
Okay.
Now, only thing I'm sad about is I love the Sun Bear with like a stupid amount of medium lasers. It eventually became the Sphinx, which I started running with Diamond Sharks. Sun Bear doesn't actually have a official model that I can find.
So what happened was, so in the lore, the Sun Bear was like a test Omni-Mech that the Ghost Bears were working on, and they decided to go the way they decided to go away from it in favor of the Stooping Hawk. The Stooping Hawk is basically the same exact chassis as the Sun Bear. In fact, it's based on the Sun Bear chassis, so you can use the Stooping Hawk model for the Sun Bear, according to what I've when I asked about it in like one of the other discords. That's what they said. They're like, "Oh yeah, the Sun Bear and the Stooping Hawk are basically the same chassis."
Okay, so that'll be like Crab and Night Chanter, or Black Knight and Spirit Walker, or something to that effect.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a canon model for it. It's just not called the Sun Bear. It's called the Stooping Hawk.
I got it
Now,
pulled up now, and the next time I'm fortunate enough to drive the 6 hours each way to the Iron Wind factory, I'm probably going to pick one up because you're right, that is a fun mech to run.
oh yeah, it definitely is. And I've actually got one in my Fortress or Ares cart right now. I'm not sure which one I was looking at earlier. Uh,
Nice.
but with that being said, the Sun Bear Prime has dual medium pulse lasers and dual ER mediums, one in each arm, and then an ultra autocannon 20 in the right torso. So that ultra autocannon, when it hits, causes mechs to go boom. He headshot a mech in round one of Tukkayid Heat. He got through armor crits on round two, if I remember correctly, and it's got enough heat sinks that it can run and fire every single weapon, including that ultra autocannon 20, in single shot and still remain neutral. If I choose to go full auto with it, which it does not have the most amount of ammo, I only got 15 rounds with it, so I have to go full auto sparingly. Usually by turn 3 or 4, I'm close enough to where I have like maybe an 8 or a 7 to hit with it, and I'm comfortable going full auto with it for a turn or two. Well, more than likely, I'm going full auto from then on out because he's very scary and people tend to focus him down once they see that ultra auto cannon.
Well, if you've got a UAC 20 and you did a through armor crit, I think you should get a through armor crit every time because that's a lot of punching power if you don't just straight up destroy the weapon or the torso section.
Yeah, and one of the scariest things is that just because it's prone, as long as it still has one arm, it can still fire that
Oh.
UAC 20.
So somebody
And
walking up thinking they get an easy shot on you, you get to blast them in the face from your chest cannon.
yeah, and that did happen more than once. He does tend to get draw a lot of fire because I throw him out in front of the behemoth to kind of screen and gatekeep for it. But he's got decent armor and he's decently fast, so I can generate maybe a 2 or 3 mod with some forests here and there. So I love this mech. It's been the workhorse for my list.
Yeah, I'm really proud to see it out there because I stumbled upon it just randomly going, "Oh, I've never seen this before. I'm going to take it just to, figure out what the lulz it is." So I'm glad to see it getting some love from you.
Oh yeah, definitely my one of my favorite top 5 mechs for sure. I think it's number 3 right now.
Sweet.
Moving on, I actually ran. Oh, wait, maybe if I do this right and go right click view, I can pull it up. There we go. The Dragonfly Viper C. So this one is, I think, the cheapest Viper of out of all of them that are available, and it's still got that same 812-8 movement profile, 20 double heat sinks, or well, 20 total heat sinks, 10 doubles. And this one doesn't have those medium pulse lasers, which drive up the cost, but it does have 2 ER mediums, 3 flamers, and 4 machine guns. And it's decently heat efficient. I could fire, I think, everything and then generate a little bit of heat, and then the next turn drop like a flamer or something, and then go back to being neutral. I could fire those machine guns every single turn because, of course, they generate 0 heat, and they have one thing to note, which I never thought of, dumping ammo with it is it's got 3 tons of machine gun ammo. Uh, Even with rapid fire turned on, which it wasn't for this tournament, I don't think you would chew through 3 tons of machine gun ammo with 4 machine guns in a 15-round match if you fired them every single turn.
Have you considered rapid fire? I mean, I don't know if it was an option, if that's a TAC Ops rule or not, but have you considered rapid fire machine guns?
Yeah, I don't even think it would chew through all of that with rapid fire turned on. But I could have dumped 2 tons easily. I just never did because I try not to cheese stuff like that. I'm paying for all that ammo. I'm taking it with me. You got to
Um,
save it for next round.
Another thing which I don't think came in play here is you've got a Beagle active probe on this mech. That is a good thing to have when you don't know the missions in advance, because maybe there's a search and destroy mission, maybe there's something that a Beagle active probe gives benefits to, like rerolls to picking up things, but you also get a -1 to hit units in woods with one of the optional TAC Ops rules that MRC usually has turned on. So I could easily see this mech being your jumper to get behind, slow moving units that are just camping in woods. And guess what? -1 to hit on all of your weapons is pretty sweet when that rule is active.
Oh yeah, definitely. This was probably one of my bigger backstabbers. I mean, I have 2 of them, and this one tended to survive a lot more than the other one did.
Well, the other one is made out of some leftover cardboard, so I think so.
Yeah, which we'll go ahead and get into. Everybody should know and loathe this particular mech. It is the heavily lauded Dasher slash Firemoth H.
This
It's
is the kill on sight. Immediately, that thing should not live past turn 2.
Yeah, don't let it get close. Up, it's already behind you. It's too late. It moves 10, 15 with mask. It can move up to 20 hexes in one turn. It's got 22 heat sinks total, and it's got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
9.
6, 7, 8. Yeah,
I
correct. Thank
know
you.
this mech very well. It's got 9 of them, and it can do, what, like 70 or something stupid of damage.
Yeah, it's got 9 heavy small lasers. I think they do what, 6 each or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And because it's a heavy laser, it generates that +1 to hit. But what do we have here? A beautiful targeting computer to cancel out that +1. So this is arguably one of the most efficient mechs in the game. And as you can see, it's definitely earned its loathed status.
Not only that, but if it's backstabbing, those ranges are what, like 1, 2, and 3, right? For short
Correct.
medium.
That
So
is,
you're going to want to get in short range, which means you're going to want to get in base contact to the rear. Guess what? You're also going to be kicking. So not only are you forcing a PSR because you're going to do so much damn damage if you don't just explode the mech, you're also getting a kick in.
yeah. And it actually destroyed a mech. It didn't destroy it, directly, but in one of my matches, it indirectly destroyed a mech round 2, basically. It opened up the rear torso armor of, I think, a Cataphract, which we'll get into, and then the Cataract subsequently went bloom the next round.
Brutal.
Oh yeah, this thing was very, very dangerous, and I think I used it quite effectively for at least the first 3 rounds of the tournament. The 4th round, he was my objective getter and my probe runner.
I'm not sure who said it recently. Maybe it was Vapor, maybe it was Carbon, but somebody mentioned the Dasher H is like a gatekeeper mech or a watershed mech. It's one of those where as soon as you've played it and you know what that thing can do, like you're permanently advanced a little further in Battletech. So knowing what the Dasher H is like you have a pre-Dasher H and a post-Dasher H strategy. As soon as you see it, you never forget what that thing can do.
Yeah, and then you see other similar mechs like the Koshi Standard 3. We're like, oh hey, that's kind of like a Dasher, but it jumps for 3 and has mask. Or I'm
Yeah.
sorry, it jumps for 6 and has mask, but it has the same weapons loadout. Or you see the Gargoyle J, and you're like, holy shit, that's a 80-ton Dasher H that can jump for 7 or whatever.
Yeah, and I'll watch some of the language I want to use, but it's definitely one of those use and forget mechs. If it can trade itself for a higher value mech, it's already paid for itself then. So great, I lost a 700 or 800 BV dasher, but your Atlas is dead.
And yeah, that did happen for a couple of the practice games. I think it was actually an Atlas that I did that to, where I got in the big arc and hit the ammo bin, and now there's no more Atlas. The Dasher subsequently died that same turn, but it did its job. It's a
Correct.
guided missile. All right, so that's our lists. So we can go ahead and get into the actual games we played. I'll let you go ahead and go first, Pirate, with your round one match.
So my round one match was against Lee Enfield, who is an amazing player in person, who I've yet to beat in person. But this was like his first game in Mega Mech. So we played the regular. Uh, First mission was stand up fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, first mission was a straight up stand up fight. Sorry, I'm trying to find the score sheet PDF.
No worries. Because I've got some traumatic memories of that match and the list he brought when we were practicing like the couple days before. But so it was a stand up fight, and this is one where I outranged him, and I knew it. And he had some nasty mechs. He had a War Dog, which is totally slept on. You should definitely check out the War Dog. Awesome mech with a Gauss rifle. Bandersnatch, I want to say with two LBX 10s. Um, Another fairly nasty slept on mech. Um, then a assortment of lights, which I'm struggling to remember what they were, so I'm sure you got the sheet pulling up in a sec.
Aha!
But there we go.
No, let me
But
make a copy.
yeah, but the short version of that match was um, I outranged him. I could probably pop him from my not my deployment zone, but from my map edge. So I pretty much got my slow gargantuans moving 3 turns to the end of my map sheet, hopped up on a hill and in some woods, and just started, I guess I just started blasting
Wait,
and
hang on. Who was
shooting
your
away.
opponent again? Sorry.
Lee Enfield.
Ah, Leah. Oh, I should have known. I know I heard you say it. I just forgot. My bad.
That was it. He also had an Orion, a Wasp, and a Locust. Um, so he had a different movement profiles as well. And I remember he went pretty heavy on the Wasp and Locust quickly. So pulse lasers took care of them. Um, the Bandersnatch and War Dog, I think, came up next. Pulse lasers took care of them. And then the Orion finally coming up and took care of that.
Nice. So I'm assuming you won round one and you dispatched almost all or all of his mechs. Sorry.
So I want to say I took um, I lost nothing, but I think my Warhawk was in forced withdrawal because it took 5 head hits. He definitely knew to focus fire and kick, so he was causing PSRs left, right, and center on that Warhawk.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, but it wasn't. That's probably the one that I played it, and I was like, I'm gonna play to win because I really want to beat Lee because he's really cool and awesome. But then afterwards, I was like, it's kind of dirty. That probably wasn't very enjoyable for anyone involved here.
Yeah, from what you and others have said, Lee Enfield is a very good player. So I think he deserves the no holding back match.
It's all right. I'm sure at NashCon I'll get my comeuppance.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played Lee Enfield, so maybe I'll get to play him then.
But yeah, outside of just you know straight murder, um, not much to be said there. I really liked his Bandersnatch and his War Dog. I've used that War Dog before. It's an awesome mech. Bandersnatch, usually I kind of skip over. I'm like, that's just a blackjack of some sort, but it was pretty good. So, you know, not my style to run a list like that, but, because I just don't like the Locust and the Wasp so much. but I did enjoy it.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. So you're up 1-0 currently.
Correct.
Nice.
Now, what about your game one?
So round one, I played the Big Cannoli. I actually recorded all of my matches for Tukkayid Heat, so I do have some footage. We're not gonna, comb over it, but because I have it, we're gonna go ahead and use it. So my first two games went fairly similar. So we'll go ahead and get into this first one. Here's Cannoli's list. There's this Cataphract, Tarantula, T-Sang, Menshen, and Vindicator. Funnily enough, I actually played this match second. I played my round two match before this, but we'll go in order of, round order. Oh, hey, look, Discord. So this one was fairly unfortunate for Cannoli. Uh, first couple turns, not really much happens. Just some poking shots here and there. I go for some rear shots on the Tarantula. I think I hit one. I get my Behemoth into a sniper nest over here. The Sun Bear's creeping along with the Behemoth. The Dragonfly is moving up the field to help screen for the Behemoth. And I see an opportunity. If you blink, you'll miss it. But during the movement phase, the Cataphract is prone. So there's still more mechs to move. I'm not entirely sure exactly what happened because I don't know the ins and outs of all of his mechs. I glanced at him, but there's a prone mech that's just begging to be shot at by the Dasher. It's well within running range of that Dasher. I don't even think I even had to use Mask this turn. So I moved it up and got some rear shots. And as it turns out, because he's on level 1, or I'm on level 1, he's on level 0 prone, I didn't need to turn to face him. I could just torso twist and fire all my weapons since I couldn't kick him anyway. But as it turns out, as we'll see in a minute here, too far. Oh, there it is. Found it. Haha. Enough vamping. So he went for Mask 2 turns in a row with the Cataphract. Unfortunately, he needs a 5 and he rolls a 3, so he fails his Mask roll. He crits his hip, which is probably the worst thing you could crit on a failed Mask roll, and the upper leg. So he needs to roll, a 5 plus 2, 6, 7 plus leg, 8, and he doesn't make it. He rolls a 6 and falls. This is the third round of the game during the movement phase, and it's already not going well for him. And it's going to go from not well to worse as soon as that Dasher gets in his rear arc and lights him up a little bit. So we'll skip ahead to where we were before. So we've skipped the firing phase a little bit. No.
Too far. I saw a lot of death with my trained eye there.
Yes, you did. Hang on. Let's go back a little bit because it happened, I think, during the movement phase of the next turn. So here is the firing phase. We'll go ahead and play, and that way you can see some action here. But, there's fire being traded back and forth. Oh, physical attack phase. I'm sorry, for round 4. Which means we need to go back just a little bit.
I wasn't going to correct you.
You should. I should be corrected. Okay, so here's some firing phase. So I get some lucky crits on that Tarantula. He's in force withdrawal. Sun Bear is tanking like a champ. I actually failed backing up of a hill, walking backwards, and he fell. And he still survived and was able to get up and return fire because the Sun Bear is the MVP. But
Stone Rhino doesn't look like it's doing too much there.
Nope, missing on 5s and 7s, which is my MO, generally speaking. Oh, wait, hang on. Actually, I think we skipped a whole entire turn because that Dasher H moved off of that Caesar. So let's rewind a little bit more. Oh, wait, there it went.
Yep, just saw it.
There it is. Okay. So we'll go back 10 more seconds.
Let's just watch that Dasher move gloriously, rolling Mask.
And there's the end of the movement phase. The Cataphract failed his piloting check to stand up, needing an 8. We finally found it. He falls, he lands on his ammo bin, takes the ammo explosion, and blacks out. Not only does he black out, but he had not turned off his auto eject. So A, the mech is instantly destroyed because he auto ejects. B, the mech is destroyed because it's an inner sphere mech, and I don't think he has case, and he just took 90 damage to a torso.
Yep. So lesson here is always disable auto eject, but also case is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, so there's my Sun Bear failing his 5 piloting skill to move backwards over an elevation change. So he ended up taking all those shots in the next round prone, which, is unfortunate. But the gist of this match is I got a really, really lucky kill on that cataphract very early on in the game. The Dasher only opened up his rear armor and he fell and basically coup de grace himself with the ammo explosion. But I was able to use my superior numbers and speed in order to eke out the win this time around. I do believe that my Dasher was in forced withdrawal by the end of the match due to engine explosion, which should not have been possible because that rule should have been turned off because it's technically optional TAC ops stuff. But it's all right. He got a little bit of points off of the Dasher blown up, and I only lost like 3 points or something, so it's not that big of a deal. Also, why you should double check and make sure that everything is turned on or off respectively when it comes to rules.
I'm seeing him pressure your behemoth pretty hard with that T Sang there.
Yeah, so as you can see, the Tarantula moved up before it was put into force withdrawal to pressure the behemoth. The T-Sang, which is a big, scary melee mech, moves up and is basically starting to chase the Stone Rhino around, while I turn around and start chasing them with the Sun Bear, chasing the Stone Rhino. So the Stone Rhino can jump for 3, thankfully, and also torso twist to shoot in its rear arc, which I think is what I do right now. And I think I get the T-Sang to fall. And so he can't kick me with his ridiculous TSM this turn. But yeah, he was definitely pressuring me. He just didn't have the rolls to connect. The dice kind of went my way, and I was able to put his mechs down before he could take out my behemoth. He decided to basically ignore my fast boys. He roughed up the Sun Bear a good bit, and he decided to target switch hard and chase the behemoth around. But that did allow the Sun Bear and the Light Boys and the Behemoth to, lay into him throughout the entire time at short range.
It's always a hard decision to switch targets because, well, I could keep chasing that thing and whittle it down, but if you're pocketing it, maybe I want to take these easier shots on something that's got fresh armor, which is a strategy of also not moving one of your mechs because you need it to take hits because the other one can't as a defensive posture. It's all sorts of mind games that could be going on when you do those things, but when you're behind or you've had a couple bad rolls, it's real easy just to go berserk mode. And if I was looking at this, I would say it almost looks like he's going for, let me at least kill the behemoth, and that's 50% of the combat score right there.
Yeah, I would definitely say he was chasing the points there. Granted, the Sun Bear's not a bad prize either at 2,000 battle value, but I can see he was chasing the big money, going for big game hunting after that Stone Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the final score I think was 197 to 95 negative, I think.
Mm.
But it was a very hard fought match. He just had some unfortunate luck for that first opening turn, or those first couple of opening turns, failing mask, failing the piloting roll, and then failing the second piloting roll to blow himself up.
I haven't had a chance to play Big Cannoli yet, so look forward to seeing him and getting some games in.
Oh yeah, he's a very good player as well. So that was round 1, which I played second because we were able to thanks to the pods. So how was your round 2 game?
Let me kick this camera back on, see if that makes it clear.
Ah, there you go. Nice and pretty and clear and easy breezy or whatever that that catchphrase was.
All good. So my round 2 was against Mitchell, who is another local guy, and we've played a couple times. In fact, mostly we play Alpha Strike, and we just went up to Detroit to do Motor City Mayhem there. Awesome tournament run by Soul Roth. Um, so
Time out. You just mentioned that both of the people you played against were local. We forgot to mention that something Sam did for the first sets of pods was try to match people up based on their time zone, which is why you ended up playing people that you play on a regular basis, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is for the pods.
wouldn't call it unfortunate. So when I play Lee Infield, it's usually a case of uh, he ranks out so much better than me that I don't get a chance to play him. So it was pretty nice to actually play him.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, Mitchell and I, we get a lot of pickup games in together too. So I think we've only played maybe four or so classic games together, but he's definitely a good player as well at classic. As much as he says, "Oh, my rolls suck, and I'm new to this," yeah, he's got a lot of good strategy behind there. Definitely a good wargaming player. He's played many, many war games besides BattleTech.
Yeah, you're not the first one I've heard say good things about Mitchell from what I gather. I don't think I've played him myself, but he is one of those better players and those names you hear every now and then.
Oh, for sure. So, yeah, so he's local. Got to play against him. It was the first time in Mega Mech I played him, so it's another one of those "aha, you're in my domain now" kind of situations. So I get all my training wheels. Um, Definitely thinking of printing out some sort of like plastic template so I can hover it over and go, what's 2 to 4 to 6 hexes for medium pulse laser range?
We need to get a light up table so that the LED lights come up across the bottom and show our ranges on. That would be bitching.
Oh my god, that would be so awesome. But round two, it was Crush the Head. So having played round one, I wanted to play a little more dynamic, but also I got a lot of chonk. So this would have gone one of two ways. He and I could each stick our commander in our own deployment zones and just not move. Then we would tie on objective. That would kind of suck.
So, which I'm assuming your Turkina C was your commander, correct?
Correct. My Turkina C was my commander, partly because it can jump, so I can get out of situations. Partly because it was my original commander, and it's the bad guy from the video game, so it really should be. But also, it wasn't my heaviest, so I was hoping people would go for the Direwolf or go for the relatively lighter armored Warhawk and leave the Turkina alone to an extent.
Gotcha. Not a bad strategy. I mean, there's also always the option of making that little locust your commander and hiding it in your deployment zone while your big beefy boys stroll across the map, causing death and destruction
Oh yeah,
with no regard for their own safety.
Immortal Legion moving forward. And actually, that's kind of what happened. We both pretty much not rushed, but got our boys into the end of our map sheets. Took some pop shots. Nothing was really happening. So I started moving my assaults forward. He started moving his stuff forward. I forget exactly what happened, but I want to say he hit my Turkina with a decent amount of firepower. It took a PSR, hit its head, and blacked out in the
Ooh.
forest in the middle of the Grasslands 1.
Well, at least he had some forest cover.
Yeah, that needed it to buy me some time. So after that happened, and that was like turn 5, I was like,
Ooh.
crap. He has an Atlas as his commander. So I need to chew through an armor of an Atlas while having my commander blacked out and not being able to really stand very well if he's able to wake up anyway, which I think in the end he was not able to wake up.
Ooh.
So Turkina goes down. He swarms it with, I forget exactly what he had light mech wise, but I think he's Rascal on the sheet, but he starts
Oh,
swarming it. And
speaking of which, we can pull that up. Sorry about that.
yeah, no, you good. Let's see. Yeah, he should be under Rascal there.
Aha, found him.
That was it. I mean, so if you look at what he's got, I'm further up.
And I know how to spell. There you are.
Ah, it's okay. He must be literate somehow. Um, he had a crab, which is not a slouch, a blackjack, which has jump jets, a mercury, and a mongoose, which are speedy boys. So they were able to zip up the field and basically swarm before, Chonkosaurus could get in range to try to help them. Made a decision at that point where I said, okay, Turkina's dead and I've lost that objective. I need to get rid of his Atlas like now. Like there is no waiting. I need to kill that Atlas immediately. So,
Yeah, it
uh,
makes sense. I mean, that's literally the only way you can recover the match.
oh yeah, there is no recovering it. I could table him and I would still lose on the objective. So what I did was I rushed my Direwolf and Warhawk and Locust to try to swarm his Atlas, to the point that I was able to knock it over and got a couple decent rear shots on it when it was prone. But it's still an Atlas. It has armor. While he took out my commander, he was dead, headshot. I had to take a Warhawk and run 6 hexes past a King Crab with precision AC-20 ammo, literally 2 hexes away. And I was like, nope, I'm not shooting you, King Crab, who's right next to me. I'm shooting that Atlas over there.
I mean,
Um,
you got to do what you got to do.
oh yeah, it's definitely one of those. Yeah, I know that literal imminent death is over here on the left, but I got to go take out that Atlas. Ended up getting some more shots on him. He stood his Atlas up, and I got my Locust 2C behind him, small pulse to something in the rear, and blew it out from the inside.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, it was definitely my favorite match of the tournament, just because it was kind of going bog standard, and then all of a sudden everything happened like within 3 or 4 turns, just super fast, super intense. Oh my god, what everything has changed. The whole plan is gone. So literal desperate measures, and ended up tying him on the objective. I want to say I lost my Turkina, and I think that was the only thing I lost. I could be wrong. And ended up taking out his Atlas, of course, maybe 2 or 3 of the other mechs. The King Crab ran out of precision AC-20 ammo, so it got it and used all of it. And we ended up something like, it wasn't very much. It was like 95 to 65 or something for edge on combat score, win and tie on objective.
Oh, nice. So that was a real close game then, if that's the case.
Oh yeah, it was definitely brutal and very fun to play.
All right. So end of round two, you're now 1-0-1, correct? Because that's technically a tie.
Correct.
But you did end up taking the win and objective points, which I'm not sure if there's a bonus to your points or not.
Um, well, we tied on objective points, but I won on combat there. So at the end of it, I think your combat score, there's a differential, and it's almost equal to the objective differential. So over the course of the tournament, of course, you want your points to be as high as you can be. But I only got 25 out of 100 possible points for the objectives, so that definitely hurt me in the rankings later.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So that was your round two. My round two, which I have footage of over here somewhere, if I can find it. There's cannoli. Okay, here we go. My round two was against Bastet, who was a brand new player. Not just, to MRC, but I think to Mega Mech in general. So
I
I,
appreciate you taking the time to get in and play, and we respect your courage for jumping into a tournament as you're new to the entire thing. That's awesome.
oh yeah, it was definitely way ballsier than I was for the first time playing. I didn't play a tournament for like my first 8 months in MRC. because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and B, I figured I'd get my butt kicked, which was true. I did get my butt kicked quite a bit when I started playing originally. Just
And
ask Vapor and Pirate.
and you know what? I'm a firm believer that playing veterans who can beat you multiple times means you learn how to be beaten. So you learn how to, I'm going to use different words. You learn how to become victorious.
Yes, correct. I agree in learning from losing because that's how you get a good portion of your lessons. So this match was also quite unfortunate for my opponent starting out. The match, there was just a little bit of positioning in the beginning, not much to speak about. I'm scooching my behemoth up. I picked vertical because I think I won the map roll. And I'm, throwing my dasher across the board and my viper right behind it to try and start, getting into rear arcs and stuff. Just disrupt the gun line that she's got. She's got a catapult, an awesome, a Bandersnatch, which is actually a pretty dangerous mech, and then two fast boys. I forgot what it was, a mongoose and I think a spider. This was actually cut off the head. There it is, Spider 5V. So an 812-8, really hard to catch jumpy boy. Uh, so this is cut off the head, as we said earlier, and the spider was the head. So she just, as you can see, kept the spider in the back and bum rushed to the edge of her map with the awesome, the catapult, the bandersnatch, the grasshopper, and the mongoose. And I immediately start getting into rear arcs just to throw shots out with the dasher. I mean, if they hit, they hit. If not, no biggie. It's low risk for high reward, especially on these inner sphere mechs. I'm outnumbered 6-4, so I do have a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to my positioning versus uh, she has to move more units to make up for it.
What's the famous quote? They have us outnumbered, the poor blanks.
Yep. Now I'm in a target-rich environment. So Bastet was a brand new player for the most part. So I noticed pretty early on in the match, I wasn't, inspecting every single thing that was going on, but I did notice fairly early that she was taking shots above 12, which are automatic misses. So I mentioned it and said, "Oh, hey, just as a courtesy, don't take this. I'm just trying to help you out. Anything over 12 is going to be an automatic miss, as you can see." So yeah, there. So this is the unfortunate part for Bastet.
Oh,
This is round five. This is just kind of vamping until we get to this point. Round five. This is basically the first round of real firing. Look, needing tens and eights. So there were some pot shots before this, but the first real turn of firing, I nail a headshot on the Bandersnatch, which was completely fresh up to this point with the Ultra Autocannon 20. Only one shell hit because I think I did single fire needing eights. Uh, but it was enough to put that mech down from fresh. So immediately, right when combat really starts, she's on the back foot. And I was just able to use my superior firepower and mobility to hunt down that spider with the dasher and eventually with the viper as I'm distracting the catapult, the grasshopper, and the awesome, threatening rear arcs the entire time. Uh, I don't think I lost or had any mech in force withdrawal at the end of this, but for their first time, Bastet put up a really good fight. I don't want to say there was anything really wrong with her positioning. She threw that awesome out front to soak fire. It's just that I had the speed and the clan advantage there, and I was able to outmaneuver uh, Bastet on this particular map and ended up taking the win. I don't think my behemoth really took hardly any damage. She did eventually go for broke and throw the awesome and catapult out there, but it wasn't enough. It was a little too late because the rest of my mechs kind of chewed into her. But yeah, that's basically the gist of it for round two for me. Nothing else
so
spectacular or terrible happened.
so I think one of the advantages of BattleTech versus other wargaming systems is that BV is actually a really good, balancer. There's definitely mechs which are more efficient for certain roles, but a Dasher H is going to be terrible in a long range fight, even though it's a super efficient mech for what it does. So
Correct.
um, there's not going to be too many situations where you lose the game in list building like you would in, say, 40K. So everything can always be turned around, and the way the dice rolls are fairly uniform across the board, ignoring things like pulse laser cheese with targeting computers and AES and other stuff. Um, it balances a lot, so you could probably make a good argument for list building is not the worst thing. But
Yeah.
I do think, like you mentioned there, um, I don't go to the gym, so I don't really know gym etiquette, but I've heard if you see somebody using a machine like really wrong, like you're going to hurt yourself or it's obvious you don't know what you're doing with this particular machine, um, calling out and saying, hey, do you need help with that? I can show you how to use it properly. If they want to take that, sure. And if not, you know, okay, move on. But I think calling out people and saying, "Hey, if you're shooting on 12s, that doesn't hit, right? Here's, even though we're, opponents in a tournament, just calling out a little handy hint so that they have a better gameplay experience is always the right thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. And we're all about growing the community and making sure that everybody learns from their mistakes and becomes better players for it. Or we want a better, bigger player pool. That's the best part. You get more close games. That's more fun. I'd rather have a very close game than a blowout. Either way, getting crushed is just as equally unfun. But at least there's lessons to be learned versus crushing someone and not really learning anything from it.
No, one of the first games, in fact, the first tournament I did in person for Classic, I got absolutely crushed by this, what I'm still going to call bullcrap clan society Nova CWS thing with mech tasers and stealth armor, and I thought I took a good list, but everything I was shooting was like 11s and 15s to hit. And he's
Ooh.
like, "Oh, I need a 4 to hit you from across the board." I didn't understand what was happening, so it was extremely frustrating. But playing against players who know what they're doing and bringing those things is how I then start thinking afterwards, what happened? How would I have done it different? How do I counter that? The next time I encounter that, I know how to beat it now. So, yeah, playing a variety of players, not just better ones, but playing a variety of players always increases your level up.
Oh yeah, definitely. The more people you can play against, the more styles you'll see, and the more variety you'll have when it comes to experiences in dealing with situations. Like, take for instance your gun line with your big old 6'6" boys. Playing against that is completely different than playing against a full jump pulse laser list.
Oh gosh, yeah. And even then, playing against, you know, I love certain mechs like the Sun Cobra. I've had almost as much people hating on the Sun Cobra as I had the Uzil 8S. And it's like, one thing jumps everywhere with pulse lasers. One stands still the entire match. You know, I like the
Amen.
extremes, and I hope that I get to play more people who bring stuff to the MRC where I can learn new types of bullcrap to be angry about and then try to figure out how to beat like a puzzle.
Hey man, that Sun's Cobra is scary. All right, so that was round two for us. Moving into round three. Unless there's any final thoughts you have on that first pod.
Not really the pod. I do think Crush the Head is a semi-problematic mission when you know who the commander is, and even if you don't, you could just say, all right, this stalker, I'm going to put him prone in my deployment zone for the entire match. Okay, you're down a stalker the whole game, but if you chose a light mech to do it, are you really missing that much besides an initiative sync? So Crush the Head isn't my favorite, but it is a very easy one to run.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this spider in the corner of my deployment zone. Good luck. But you
Exactly.
never know if it's their commander or not. It's only a spider. Do you go chase the spider?
Yep. And with Tukkayid, I threw my commander pretty far forward because I wanted, to RP the commander leading the charge, but also I didn't want to just hide. Same thing with Twilight Heat. In fact, I actually have a stealth now, in semi-appropriate colors. I took a stealth, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to just sit the entire time. He's got tag, he's got jump, and a bunch of movement modifiers. He can probably survive being shot at. I definitely turtled him to an extent, but Crush the Head seems very easy to win the objective if you just choose not to play the combat game, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I did play in Twilight Heat, and I ended up third because I had the Huntsman as my commander, and I just basically jump and dual shot two large pulse lasers every single turn with it, and just didn't really get him into anything shorter than long range with those large pulse lasers.
Yeah, I
And
mean that's
it's
that's the objective, and if you can pressure somebody and just clobber them, that's great. But not my favorite mission to play. It's very easy to set up as an organizer, but not my favorite to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible mission, but when you have full knowledge of who the commander is, it takes a lot of fun out of the mission. Like, oh, that mech's getting low. Is that your commander? Oh.
Hmm.
So yeah, it also makes the game very simple. Kill kill whatever that is, and you win.
Yep. And
Versus, hopefully, you get lucky and you kill the commander.
right. And it is an easy one to play as well. It's not like we have to do complicated math. It's that guy go boom, I win. Cool.
Yeah, or my guy go boom and your guy go boom, we tie.
Yeah.
All right.
So we moved pods after this. So he reshuffled the pods. I think he used a variety of metrics, including scoring or time zones and other stuff, or just who can play who. But I stayed in pod 5, but I think most people moved around.
Yeah, I went from like group 9 to I think group 3, I do believe. And I ended up, because I won both of my games with almost max score for both games. I ended up in the top pod with everybody else who basically crushed their first two games as well. So it was very competitive. Those were some of the funnest games I've played.
That's awesome. So tell me about it. How was turn 3?
Okay, well, mission
Round 3.
3 was probe. Round 3 was probe, correct? So I
Correct.
actually played probe last. I did them in reverse order again. I played round 4 first against Tweezer, and played round 3 probe against Bowser last. So I'll actually pull up the footage. I will say this outright: I did lose round 3. Whoops, maybe I should double click that.
I mean,
There we go. Getting into it.
Tweezer's a pretty awesome player, and he made possibly one of the best moves I've ever seen against me in March Mechanus. So I expect that was a good match.
Oh yeah, that was. We'll get into match 4 because
Oh,
that
I'm sorry.
was.
That's Tweezer. Okay,
Yeah,
Bowser.
that was Tweezer. This is Bowser. But yeah, that match against Tweezer was something special. I'm gonna save that one for last. But
Gotcha.
getting into round 3 with Bowser, which I played fourth, he's got an extremely nasty list. It's pulse lasers across the board, 4 clan mediums with nothing but pulse. The Goshawk jumps for 7 and has a bunch of pulse. The Blackhawk jumps for like 5 or whatever, has a bunch of pulse. The Cobra A and the Cobra Prime both have a bunch of pulse lasers. So immediately my Dragonfly and Dasher are on the back foot. I can't just jump them around and expect them to do their job effectively. If I get too close, they are just dead, because that many pulse lasers flying their direction, one of them's going to hit, and they don't have the armor to take more than 1 or 2 hits. So I get the data fairly early with the Dasher, as to be expected, because it's the fastest mech in this format, I think. I don't think there's anything faster than it. So the first couple turns, he just straight up moves up off the map. So before we get too deep into the match itself, we should
Let's
probably
explain.
explain, yeah, how the probe mission works. So go ahead and, give us a little bit of a sampler as to what we're supposed to do here.
So the probe mission is new. It's one that Sam developed, and I really liked it as something different. But essentially, the whole point is to to line up the map sheets. Doesn't have to be vertical like you're doing. It could be, wide as well. But to get to the opponent's deployment zone with a mech, spend a whole turn there, and then you've got objective 1, which is like 20% of the points. Then you have to destroy or cripple a mech as objective 2. And you can do them in any order, but objectives 1 and objectives 2 have to be completed before objective 3. And objective 2 is like another 30%. Objective 3 is to get all of your mechs to flee off your home edge. So the clock is actually ticking from round 1, where you have to kill or cripple something, spend a turn on the opponent's map sheet, and then as soon as those are completed, flee off your map sheet.
Yeah. So by round 4, I think I've got the probe done. Maybe 3, I don't remember. But I've got the probe data. So that's, 1 of 3 objectives completed. Objective 2 is kill or cripple, and that was a little harder for me to get just because my dice did not agree with my plans. And I think I missed with the Ultra 20 almost every single shot with the Sun Bear except for once, which was quite unfortunate because other than this match, the Sun Bear was really pulling his weight and being a linchpin for my force with that Ultra autocannon. So here I try to do a little pincer attack on the Goshawk, which I think it ran this turn, and it didn't have quite as high of a modifier as it would for the rest of the match. So I went for broke with the Dasher and the Dragonfly on it, and it did not pay off. I whiffed almost all the shots with the Dasher and most of them with the Dragonfly and the Sun Bear. Yeah, as you can see, 11s and 9s just missing, 9s missing. Did not hit nearly as many, and he hit me back harder than I hit him pretty much every turn. In the end, he bum rushed me and my Behemoth with every single one of his mechs. So my Dasher is prone. He lost a leg. He's basically dead. So this next turn, he's going to get the probe data because he's got a mech on my side, and he's going to get the combat score because that Dasher is not long for this world. So he's basically already got both of the first 2 objectives completed, where I only have the first objective. And I'm scrambling to put something into forced withdrawal. So I bum rush this Blackhawk, which overextended with the Dragonfly and the Sun Bear. And I think I finally get it right there with the ammo explosion, and he loses a torso. But unfortunately, as you can see from the squish on the hill, he headshots my Behemoth for the second time this game. I think this time with the large pulse laser, and puts him down when he still had quite a bit of armor left. So now he smells blood in the water, and I've got to try and get off the map. And technically so does he. At least that's the way the objective should go. But instead of trying to retreat, because I think he knows he's entirely too far gone and I'm going to beat him off the map, he just decides to turn around and pummel into my Sun Bear and take him out before he has a chance to escape. So I get off the map with the Dragonfly because he's just too quick for his mechs to catch. And the Sun Bear gets left behind and dies fighting gloriously. Unfortunate. But I ended up completing all 3 objectives, and he only completed the first 2. And it came down to combat score. And he ended up winning by like 7 or 9 points or something. It was an extremely close game. But his overwhelming combat score victory, and the fact that losing mechs kind of hurts you in the objective score. So I didn't get the full 100 objective score points. I only got like 70 or something for losing 3 mechs. So the fact that my dice kind of didn't hit as often as I need to really hurt me this match. Just one of those autocannon 20 hits going internal, or maybe the Dasher H actually landing more than 1 or 2 pulse lasers or those heavy smalls into a torso would have changed the outcome of the match, because I would have been able to get the crippled status of the mech earlier and start running off the map with all of my mechs and start jumping that Behemoth to actually give him, a decent TMM of +2 for a jump of 3.
I haven't had the fortune to play Bowser yet, but I have heard that he's a pretty highly aggressive, high pressure player, and that
Oh yeah.
what you just said kind of confirmed that.
Yeah, so I will say I did kind of misplay during this match. I mean, I don't think it would have changed the outcome, but I stood my behemoth still on that level 1 hill to make sure I had decent shots. I could jumped it once, if I can. I don't want to pull up the video again, but I could have jumped it once to my little sniper nest, which is why the whole reason why I picked this map is because there's a level 2 hill with a level 3 right in front of it. So I could have stood there instead of standing out in the open and had cover. But I was worried about my target numbers being too high after jumping because I needed hits to land to get something in force withdrawal. So instead of going defensive, I went for full offense and I paid the price.
Well, yeah, but if you had jumped, you would have said, oh, I jumped and I whiffed it on the target numbers by one. I should have just stood still to try to take that thing out, you know?
Exactly. You never know. Grass is always greener. There's always something you could have done differently, but you can't dwell on it. So I lose round three. It was very close, but it was also very low scoring for both of us.
Well, grass is always greener when Grasslands 1 is the middle map for all of the missions.
I mean, it was a pretty green map, but there were. I enjoyed Grasslands. I thought it was great. It was nice and open with some tree cover. I thought it
Um,
was a good choice.
I've got mixed feelings on it, and the reason I say that is because there was a lot of good tactical playing you could do in the middle of that map. It was very open. It encouraged movement, which I like, and also line of sight blocking. So if two mechs are on ground zero or level zero, you get to play that movement game. Also, there's a lot of trees that I can shoot, so I do like removing forestry.
I was just about to say that. I saw quite a few people destroying trees to deny cover to their opponents, especially those heavy woods that are scattered about. It's like, hey, now you only have a +1 if you want to stand there, buddy.
Correct. The only thing I didn't like about it was that if I chose a map where I had some elevation, like literally anything, elevation one, and I had really long range weapons, I'm looking at you, everybody that took a rifleman 2C. Um, you know, my large pulse lasers and Gauss are the same. I pretty much had the ability to snipe from my deployment zone for most of the match. And deny the benefits of most of those woods. So it was definitely friendlier to newer players, but anybody that had really long range and knew how to use elevation, it started to become a murder pit very quick.
Yeah, definitely. And I've saw basically two different types of lists. Either you were running through that middle map as fast as you possibly could to get into brawling range, or you were sitting back and taking pot shots at each other from your map sheets and staying out of the middle entirely.
Correct.
So, how did your round three match go? The probe mission.
So I got to play Cataphract 40, my first game against them, and that was a fun one too. We played very similarly. So he had a wolfhound, which bursted up to the my map sheet as quickly as it possibly could, and I had my locust do exactly the same thing. And then we both had some fairly decent sized chunk. He had I want to say it was a night star. There it is. He had a night star sitting on a hill sniping. I had a warhawk, or sorry, a dasher in the Turkina sitting on the hill sniping. He had his Thunderbolt and Bushwhacker play midfield. I was afraid of my Locust dying, so my plan on this was the Warhawk was going to be my midfielder, and there was just enough time, turn one, if I sprinted every turn to get the Warhawk to get to his map sheet, stay a turn, and then retreat.
Wow. That is some calculation right there.
Oh, this whole game was calculation. The only thing more calculating was round four. But this one, it was pretty easy, pretty easy to see early on that we both had a runner. So as soon as I could, took out the Wolfhound, or at least did a lot of damage to it after it got the probe. My Locust got the probe, He tried to cripple my direwolf by getting some rear shots with the wolfhound. So my direwolf, which has all of its pulse lasers in its right arm, basically turned its right arm, shot at the wolfhound at point blank range, and blew it up.
Ooh, but that was after it already got the probe data, correct?
Correct. The wolfhound already got the probe data.
Okay, so at
So
least he did his job.
oh yeah, he did his job. Well, yeah, he did his job of getting the probe data. Then I had to worry about the Night Star in his deployment zone, and then a Bushwhacker and a Thunderbolt that were trying to chase down my Locust, seeing it as easy prey.
Okay, time
Um,
out. I do have to stop you and point out the names of the pilots. So he decided to pick people from the Discord slash players. Corrigan, Corey for short, was in the Night Star 9J, the unit commander. Sol Roth was piloting the Thunderbolt, and the illustrious, lovely, and very handsome Jesty was piloting the Bushwhacker. And quote, the real Jesty. And then Sam, the tournament organizer, Desert Dream, was piloting the Wolfhound, and you just destroyed him.
oh, absolutely. So that Wolfhound was asking for it. So let's go for the top brass first, and put them 6 feet under there. So, oh yeah,
Sorry, just had to point that out.
oh,
We like it when people, put interesting names down.
go the extra step, and it is very noticeable. I think in the Discord I heard you say something as well that I'll mention in a second. But Wolfhound goes down. Um, he still or they still have to cripple or destroy one of my mechs. That Locust, they were like, okay, um, Locust has the probe data. Surely it's going to retreat now. No, it was a trap. So what I did was I just started kiting on his deployment zone and going prone and hoping that I can roll a 6 to stand up. And that effer probably went prone 5 or 6 times and stood up 5 or 6 times. I think it maybe fell once, but it still had movement to go somewhere else. That Thunderbolt tried really, really hard, but I was able to keep it big brain move, just one hex out of the way, prone somewhere. And then eventually I noticed they gave up on it.
See, that is hilarious and also beautiful, and the exact reason why I'm going to go into NashCon with 5 skill piloting on all my mech warriors. Because of that right there. Well, I rolled the 6, 6 turns in a row, except for once, but I was able to make it out and it was all right.
Oh, yeah,
So
exactly.
the odds are just in your favor to the extent where even a 6 is not terrible. It's like, what, a 70% chance or something to still stand up?
6 is a 72%, yes.
There you go. So, I mean, 5 can only be better, right? Like an 80 or something.
Yeah, I think it's 83, not that I see that number all the time. So, but, um, but yeah, no. So as soon as I noticed the Thunderbolt and the Bushwhacker were starting to give up on the Locust, then I started trying to get him into positions where the Night Star couldn't just flat out murder him. But that Bushwhacker was mean as sin, so it went after the Direwolf hard. I think it eventually crippled it. So I start backing up the Direwolf. I'm like, well, at least let me start moving backward. But at some point, I realized, shoot, I don't have enough movement to get off the field with everything. So,
Oh, past the point of no return, are we?
mhm. So made a conscious choice. The direwolf was probably going to die, so it's going to try to distract the thunderbolt and bushwhacker as much as possible. The Turkina, when I realized that, I was like, if the Turkina starts retreating right this turn, right now, it can get off the turn or get off the map with 1 turn to spare. And the Locust 2C, don't think it can make it. I was literally doing like turns and counting out the hexes, but I forgot, you know, when somebody actually flees and when, it's on turn 15, not turn 14.
Yeah.
So,
You have to make it to the edge on turn 14 to flee on turn 15.
correct. And the Warhawk probably could have done it, but there was so much turning and twisting, I would have had my rear turned to them the entire time and would have lost the Warhawk. So I was like, you know what? Fine. Direwolf, you're going to do what you can. He ended up blacking out and getting destroyed. Um,
Oof.
yeah, it was rough. Warhawk, Avenging Angel ended up destroying the Bushwhacker, and that's when I heard lots of, complaints about me killing you, Jesty, on the Discord.
How could you?
Easily is how. No, that Bushwhacker was a beast and put a lot more respect into the Bushwhacker for me. It already had
Yeah,
some, but man, that was a good Bushwhacker.
yeah. I've got one laying around here, unpainted and unmagnetized, but I'm definitely going to look into that after the way it performed in that match. I think I caught the tail end of that match, and I was like, "Whoa!" Watching that Bushwhacker do bad things to that Warhawk.
Oh, it was nasty. But Turkina got off with one turn to spare. Locust got off on the last turn. Warhawk did a holding action and ended up winning the objective 3 to his none, but leaving 2 mechs on the field. So, and getting a little more combat score with that Bushwhacker and Wolfhound destroyed against just the really heavily injured Direwolf. So it was a close one. It was a good game. It was very dynamic. Um, Definitely a more thinking objective because the clock is ticking on turn 1, not after some event happens, and definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, I actually really like that mission. I like the way it's laid out. I'm not necessarily thrilled with the way it's scored because this is the only mission where you could lose out heavily on combat score, complete the objective, and still lose the map. But it is what it is. It's just the way it's a product of combat losses double dipping into your objective score as well, which is fair enough.
Well, and I appreciate that this is something besides go murder something specific or go stand somewhere specific. Like this was a different match, and I really enjoyed that new type of objective.
Oh yeah, it was fun. It was interesting to see people build for it and see how many people ignored the mission outright and how they performed and how they scored and people who actually went straight for the mission and got off the map as fast as possible. I'm sure there was a couple of people that actually did that. Oh hey, I got my points later. I'm not going to stick around to fight you. A win's a
Ex-
win.
no, exactly. Um, like in March Mechanist, there was one point, and it was actually my match against Tweezer, where I just stuck all of my heavily armed units on the data relay, and they all rolled really easily to pick up the data. And then I was like, hold on, I can just leave now. So then I just started walking off the map. So I had a similar experience here where it was like, all right, I can leave, but it's a lot harder to do so on this mission. So I like that it was very dynamic.
Yeah, yeah. I really enjoyed how planning out, the point of no return for your mechs and the decisions you had to make regarding that. That was definitely enjoyable for me.
Hmm.
All right, so I think that does it for round 3 for us. Any last comments on that particular match or mission?
Um, so I hope to see it again, especially if there's any. Now I'm not going to say tweaks or flair because it was a good product as it was, but this probe mission with Get to the Choppas from March Mechanist, if we do a 4 mission monthly tournament, I would really love to see at least one of the missions be somewhat just completely out of the box. Like, hey, we found these weird shades of crayons that are probably banned at certain stores. We're going to use these colors now. Like, what is crimson blood red? So I'd love to see somebody come up with stuff out of the box. I felt this hit that criteria, and love to see it in future with more creativity when we do these. So something new, something fresh.
Oh yeah, definitely. The more interesting missions we have, I think the better it will be for every tournament going forward. I definitely enjoyed it overall. All right, so that was round 3 for us. I'll let you do round 4 first because I think my round 4 was better and more entertaining than your round 4, and I'm willing to put money on that.
Well, given that I don't have any money within earshot, except I've got a bent up paperclip, I'll bet you that on it, but I think you
You
might
know,
be right.
yeah, well, I'll bet mechs on it. How about that?
I'm not taking that bet because you seem super stoked. Although I did enjoy my round 4 too.
All right, well, I'll let you go and get into it first.
Sure. So my round 4 was against shoot. I'm pretty sure it's Raiden. Um, yes, I'm like 99.999. Yes, those awesomes, those damn awesomes, damn smile. Um, so my game was
Great.
against Raiden, who I will say, if we gave out sportsmanship points, he definitely would be like, 10 of 10. One of the most sportsmanship players I've played. Always has a smile on his face, it sounds like. So we started setting up in deployment zone. And when I say this was big brain thinking, um, this is when I went, hold on, which map do I actually want to take instead of just kind of randomly picking it at the start? So I was like, okay, it's King of the Hill. We're not going to fight in our own deployment zone or our own map sheet too often. I need to get to that hill as quickly as possible. How can I get to that? All right. If I choose a flat map with very little hills or coverage, I can get to that hill pretty fast. So I actually took, I don't know, I think it might have been Grasslands 1 and rotated it so that the angles were better for me. And I was planning from before we even deployed with my Locust, which could move 12, to place it somewhere where it could do minimal turns and like go down south to the middle of the map sheet, turn once on a triangle, and go up to the hill and get to the objective on turn 2.
Gotcha.
So
So that way you're contesting basically as soon as physically possible.
correct. He had some jumpy boys, and he tried something similar, but he was about 6 hexes out. So turn 2, my Locust is right up against the building, line of sight blocking from the elevation on his map sheet, and score a point. And at that point, my sheer wall of armor is coming up on it, doing something similar, moving on a triangle. And, you know, he's already on the back foot. He has to get stuff sprinting to get on the objective just to contest it. But if he doesn't table me, pretty much, I'm going to just sit there the whole game.
Oh yeah, once you get your big boys on the objective, they're going to be impossible to move off. The only saving grace he has is that he also has two big boys and a pretty big boy to follow up with the Warhammer at 70 tons. So I imagine this was a knockdown, drag out brawl once you guys got to the middle.
Oh, it got ugly. So,
I
oh,
like
it
the way you said that. Oh man.
yeah, it got very ugly very fast. So, one thing I learned in playtesting, so you should always try to practice missions if you can, was if it's a building you can't destroy or an objective you can't destroy, turning your back to the objective means nothing can get behind you. So, um, I tried to. Oh,
Oh,
good.
maybe we should explain that a little. So the building was in theory like a children's hospital or something. So you couldn't stand on it, so you couldn't walk over it. You could jump over it, but you couldn't enter it either. So no damage to the building was fair game. Incidental damage from maybe failing I don't know, skating into it somehow, or failing a death from above and then landing on the building. That's an accident, but you could not damage the buildings in any way, shape, or form purposely.
Correct. So once you realize that that's the Bitcoin mining operation that pays for the MRC servers, um,
Hey, don't let out company secrets.
oops. So once you can't destroy that, turning your back to it means you pretty much are immune to back shots. I didn't get to use that too often, but I got my Locust on it, and I basically played Hide the Locust, which sounds a lot dirtier than it needs to be. Then then he did the same thing with his Stinger. I think it was a Stinger and a Wasp. Um, so we kind of played around contesting the objective. I tried to get my direwolf to go a little south of the hill, the objective. I got my Turkina to go north and my Warhawk to try to get onto the objective just to put extra meat there since he had a 6 movement profile. And eventually got to the point where he could hide on half the building. Then he could hide on one particular hex behind the building, contesting it. Then at one point, there's nowhere to hide. I've got an assault mech. They can shoot this light mech, and he's, doing the speedy movement to try to get TMM. Eventually, he jumps behind my direwolf. Same thing as the wolfhound. Turn, right arm, 3 large pulse lasers, boom, kill it. Needed 9s, but, it is what it is.
I mean, it's a stinger or wasp or whatever. 2 pulse lasers or 1 pulse laser is going to take out an arm or leg or something.
Correct. Then you had another jumper that I think tried to contest the objective, and the Turkina, I think, knocked him out, if not the Warhawk.
Yeah, I think it was a stinger. Yeah, he had a stinger and a spider. Sorry.
That was it, a spider, yeah. So I said wasp, I meant spider then.
Close enough. One of those bugs.
I had a lucky early shot on his awesome 9Q to the center torso. So, all right, let's just keep shooting that particular awesome and see if we can hit that center torso and eventually cord it out. It was in forced withdrawal. It was retreating, but I was like, I want those points. So managed to knock him out.
That's the only real way to kill an awesome is to core it out through the center torso. Those things are the zombie of zombies.
Yes, absolutely, which is why I love them. And that comes up in a second too. Then it was like, okay, he's got a Warhammer and an awesome left on the field. He's probably not winning the objective, but I still want to, min-max trying to ensure that. So I lose initiative, and I go, when everybody's kind of starting to scrunch up, I lose initiative, and I go, you know what? I've seen Vapor do this trick against me with those damn protos, so I'm going to do something similar here. So I calculate out where his awesome can run to try to get to the objective, and I walk my Warhawk right in the middle of that path.
Oh.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to stand in the middle here, right here on this particular hex. And, he even called it out. He knew what I was doing. He can't get to the objective. So Warhawk took a pretty hard beating. I think it got crippled because of this, but I don't think it exploded. But stand in the middle of that field, ignore the awesome that's coming right at him. I calculated up, I'm like, that Warhammer has less armor than me. Everything focus fire, kill the Warhammer. Awesome gets on the objective the next turn, knock it over, and then I do the whole conga line the next turn. I have a Warhawk, a Direwolf, a Turkina, and that Locust in short range against a prone awesome in its rear, all alpha striking, and I still didn't kill it. I still didn't kill it.
Man.
It has that much armor. It was like leg destroyed, arm blown off, tearing off the center torso and killing heat sinks, but it's an awesome. It's a zombie.
Doing its job.
Oh yeah, final turn, the Turkina steps on its head, I think, and crushes it. At least no. I think it was a back torso, but in my head canon, I wanted to just be like crushing its head because that's the only way you can kill an awesome. And ended up winning combat and objective. But it was definitely a lot more mental energy going. I got from the deployment zone, I have to play this almost perfectly in order to not be behind, because that spider can get on the objective faster than me if I'm not careful.
Gotcha. So careful planning at the start of the match got you there before he did, and you were able to win it out at the end of the game.
Absolutely.
So how many turns did you have worth of objectives by the end of that match? Because you got the one early lead, which kind of put the onus on him to get you off of the objective.
Surprisingly, I think it was really only like 3. I got the 1, then we contested constantly. Then he was able to get his red awesome either on it or he was only off of it for one turn. So I got it a second time. Then the third time was when I blocked his awesome from getting to it. So realistically, I didn't really contest it that much, but because it's an all or nothing, I contested it more than him, so I got all the points.
Yeah, and that's going to come into play with my match against Tweezer. Uh, it's binary. You either win it or you don't, based on number of turns.
Absolutely. So, how did that one go? Because I'm excited to hear the after action here.
Okay, so let me pull up the video because this was one hell of a fight. Where is it?
Is
The
this where
best match.
is that Comstar putting subtitles about war crimes?
I mean, it was a children's hospital or something. All right, so hang on. Let's get into his list. So he's got a very scary T Sang. He's got a very scary Yu Huang. He's got a Wraith TR1 and an Oscout. So he's got 4 mechs. I've got 4 mechs. He outweighs me, and it's a brawl. And he's got a very, very scary TSM brawler. So I'm immediately worried because I've got the Sun Bear, but the Sun Bear doesn't want to get up close. Really, I want to get within maybe 6 hexes and stay there. So he picks the most open map I think in all of that was available, and he actually ties me getting to the objective on turn 2 with my dasher. I decided to go vertical. I think I won the roll, and I was not expecting him to get there that fast, but since I can't count because we're in the MRC, he could get there just as fast as I could by turn 2. The dasher could not make it turn 1. Maybe I would have been able to make it turn 1 if I went horizontal because I think I'm just shy by a couple of hexes. But that's neither here nor there. So we immediately start contesting turn 1 because he gets his Wraith on it. I think he just runs straight up for 12. Yeah, there we go. And he should have stayed contesting, but I think he was mistaken on how the objective worked because 1 mech is enough to contest this objective, and he figured he would just be able to make it up later on another turn further into the match by just overwhelming me with more numbers. So he moves his Oscout and his Wraith off the objective, and he could have moved his T Sang up onto the objective, but he decided not to and go right to the front of my Viper, which gives me the objective on round 3, I think this is.
So, quick point of contention on that is do read the mission packet, not saying nobody didn't read it, but King of the Hill and Domination are contesting matches where sometimes it's you must contest with at least one and then nobody scores, or it's you must have more units than you score, or you score per unit. So I've seen King of the Hill where, if I have 5 units on the objective and you have 2, I get 5 points, you get 2 points. It's a little more common to do it that way, but
yeah, or by mech size. I've seen that happen too. Like for an Alpha Strike, size 1 you get 1 point, size 2 you get 2 points, stuff like that.
Oh, I haven't seen that one, but I really need to brush up on my Alpha Strike objectives. But even some units can contest, but they can't hold it. Like a VTOL can contest it, but it can't hold it, or infantry and battle armor. So it is pretty. If you're going to mistake an objective, this probably would have been the one to do it. So do read the objective packet is the moral of that story.
Yeah, definitely. So as you can see here, I get the dasher in the rear of the Yu Huang. He's a hog in hog heaven doing what he's supposed to do, but it does not go well for my poor little dasher. The Viper is holding the fort down while the Sun Bear and the Behemoth move up. I know that I can't sit back with the Behemoth because the Dragonfly and the Sun Bear aren't enough to hold down the fort per se. Well, the Oscout Wraith and this very scary T-Sang murder my poor little light mechs with its ridiculously brutal TSM melee attacks.
I need to look into the T-Sang because I really like the Night Sky for being in a distraction Carnifex and just being brutal with the hatchet. The T-Sang seems like that on steroids.
Yeah, so round 3, I go pretty heavy into the rear of the Yu Huang, but I don't really get anything useful. I think I hit mostly arms and legs on the rolls I did hit, and miss quite a good bit of sevens. So, I get an upper arm actuator. So I didn't get nothing, but trading an upper arm actuator for a whole ass leg on a dasher is not a good trade.
Oh,
So yeah, immediately I'm on the back foot now.
look at those
Granted,
numbers.
yeah, needs tens, rolls 11, nailed him. So you can't rely on not getting hit ever. You can only rely on not getting hit for a little while. And that little while was only 3 turns for the dasher. And then there's my beautiful me missing sixes as usual. And yeah, nothing really to write home about. So the dasher is pretty much done. He's legged, so there's zero reason for him to stay within 3 hexes of him. He can just walk away, and the dasher's doing absolutely nothing for the rest of the game, and he can pick him off at his leisure later. The Viper is in point blank range. He gets hipped and falls, but he is not in force withdrawal. He's prone, but he's not in force withdrawal, so he's still holding the objective. So I get the point this turn.
But you're prone next to a very angry T-Sang.
Correct. And it's movement phase, and I've lost a hip, which means my roll to stand up is not great. I think it's at least 6s or 7s or something, because I think I got a hip and a leg or foot actuator. So, yeah, no, I think it was actually 7s or 8s, because I decided not to stand up, if I remember. Oh, wait, no, I did. Okay. So I stood up and scooched him, because, I mean, if I'm not going to, I need to contest. I don't want to jump for 2 on the other side and let the Yu Huang hit me and have the T-Sang run around and smack me in melee anyway. At least here I can put my back up against the wall and have cover from the very scary Yu Huang.
Not only
The
that,
T-Sang.
if you
Oh,
did jump, you would take a PSR because of your hip actuator. You probably would have fallen and gotten in an even worse position.
Exactly. Which is why I chose not to do that. So instead, I come into melee with the Sun Bear to try and block the T-Sang and say, if you want to get rear arc on my Sun Bear, go for it, but I'm going to kick you with the Dragonfly and probably shoot you up real good with the Behemoth if you do. And
positioning.
Yeah, so he decides to do a little loop-de-loop around and get to the side arc of the Viper. The dasher gets taken out this turn. We'll fast forward a little bit. No need to stay going this slow. Yeah. Pretty sure the dasher dies this turn. Yep, there it goes. Now it's a squish. And I'm able to put enough fire into the T-Sang to knock it prone so it can't get another devastating melee attack on me, which is exactly what I needed. I think I did. I don't think I hit him with the AC-20 because the Sun Bear, he tanked pretty well this match, but he didn't do all that much damage. All things said and done, the Behemoth was most definitely the MVP this round, and we'll see why coming up shortly. So I'm down a mech already. I'm trying to stay on the objective. He moves the T-Sang out. He jumps the Oscout in. I'm not sure what he does with the Wraith this turn, but he's bringing that Yu Huang up to get into the fight after eliminating the Dasher. So we'll fast forward a little bit. The Behemoth is scooching ever closer, moving for 3 to 5 hexes every turn because it's not very fast. But I get basically into point blank range for this Behemoth, and I start laying into the Yu Huang. It's the best shot I have. It had hardly any TMM, and I've got to deal with it eventually. I can't let him sit on the objective with all 3 mechs, especially a jumpy boy Wraith, the T-Sang who's moving fairly quickly. I've got to put damage on something, and the Yu Huang was the only thing I had decent shots in, short range on all of my weapons. So I start laying into it. I hit with most things. I blow off an arm or something. It's not enforced withdrawal, but it's roughed up pretty good. I'm trying to stay as far away from that T-Sang as I possibly can with the Behemoth, because once it gets into melee, I'm never shaking it off unless I win initiative and I move my Behemoth last, which means I'm basically sacrificing the Sun Bear and the Dragonfly, which is now enforced withdrawal. And I think
imagine the Yu Huang the behemoth going at each other like two titans from mythology, just murdering in an apocalypse.
Oh yeah, it makes me think of that little GIF or whatever where there's two mechs just kind of walking in a circle, just beaming into each other with a ton of fire. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about.
Oh, I do, and I wish I had his favorite hit because I'm gonna go find it on the Discord when we're done.
Yeah, me too. I should have that on hand. Yeah, so the Viper is in force withdrawal, so he's no longer contesting, which means the Sun Bear has to put his back up against the building to contest. I keep laying into the Yu Huang with the Behemoth because A, I need points for combat score, and B, it's a scary threat. I don't want to just let him take free shots on me. The T Sang gets into melee range. He lays into my Sun Bear, knocks him prone, and I think he goes for the kick onto the Viper this turn. And since I think I got legged or hipped or something with the Sun Bear, and I decided to just leave him on the floor. He's not in force withdrawal. I don't have to make him stand up like I am with the Viper right now, attempting to stand up, who makes it on a 9 miraculously. And the since the T Sang has TSM, it would be ideal for me to light it up with some flamethrowers, but unfortunately, it's out of range. So I move the Behemoth up, and I think this is the turn where the luck starts going into my favor. Maybe not. Maybe it's next turn. But this is, I mean, as you can see, we're both contesting. We both have mechs that are pretty roughed up. The Behemoth is pretty much scratched as of right now. The Sun Bear's seen better days. The Dragonfly is on its last leg. The Wraith is missing a good chunk of armor. The T-Sang's missing a good chunk of armor. The Oscout is unscathed, and the Yu Huang has been pretty damaged fairly well. I think he's missing an arm, too, at this point. So it's the Behemoth. I'm pretty sure I take out the Yu Huang this turn. Yep, there it is. There's the squish. And in trade, there it is. He gets my Sun Bear with that kick. So now it's the Behemoth versus the world. There's the T-Sang, the Wraith, and the Oscout against my poor, lonely little Behemoth. So he backs up against the building and sits there and stands and delivers for the rest of the match. He surrounds me with all three of his mechs, and I just unload as many shots as I can without overheating because I want to remain heat neutral so I don't have a penalty on piloting checks because I'm going to be falling pretty much every turn from the kicks and taking more than 20 damage. I take out the T-Sang first because it's the biggest threat, and I'm able to get it down, luckily, with all my firepower concentrated. Next up, the Wraith is the next biggest threat. I think the Oscout has almost no weapons. It's because I think I critted it out or something. So he's basically got like 2 medium pulse lasers and like a small laser and kicks on me every turn. While the Behemoth is just laying into him with the 2 large pulses and the 3 large ERs. Since I'm not moving, I think I can fire all 5 weapons every turn as long as I don't have any crits. This, I do believe, is the last round, round 14 or round 15. So this is literally the end of the game. I'm up 1-0 the entire match because other than turn 2, the objective has been contested the entire time. And this is, I do believe, the photo finish. Maybe not this turn. I think it actually happens on round 15. Yep, here it is. Just split fire because this is it. Go for broke. Wraith, TR1, destroyed by engine destruction. And I take a screenshot of this because it was too beautiful. Oscout, destroyed by CT destruction. And then the Wraith returns damage and takes out the head on the Behemoth. Every single mech is destroyed at the end of the very last turn of this particular match. I win on objectives, 1-0, 0 BV remaining for both players. One of the funnest, most, on the edge of your seat the entire time matches I've ever played. The Behemoth earned his money, earned his, whatever you want to call it, his reputation for that particular match alone. Basically standing up against a Lance pretty much on his own after the rest of my mechs got chewed up.
I could tell by the tone of your voice that you may have been excited about this match.
That was one of the best matches I've ever played. Most definitely fun. We both had fun. It was very enjoyable. I won out barely, but damn, Tweezer's a good player, and he literally had my back up against the wall for most of that match.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I was about to say, redefining you when your back's against the wall, because that looked like that was just absolutely nuts and brutal. And I'm sure, again, even standing still, there's a lot of anxiety and thinking into, if I'm going to stand still to get +1 to hit you, man, this better pay off.
Yeah, I did have the option to jump like one or two of those turns. I think that first turn that I didn't fall, I could have jumped to the other side of the map or the other side of the building, give myself a little bit of modifier. But I was like, no, I he's gonna catch me. There's no point in jumping for a +2, or actually it would only be a +1 because I could only jump for 2 hexes and stay contesting.
Now, one small thing is for any newer players listening, if you are heated up, you don't take additional penalties on the PSR because heat doesn't affect the pilot rolls.
Oh,
But
that's right.
but it does kind of though, because say he did knock you over, if you're overheated, you wouldn't have enough movement to get up. So that is a good reason not to overheat.
Yeah,
Because
that's what I meant. Sorry, I didn't
oh,
want to. You mean what I know?
oh, I mean what you know, but it's just in case anybody's like, well, I'm gonna go get the rule book and look that up. Um, but I was looking at the screenshots when they were coming up, like your leg armor was stripped and everything, and then you die by a headshot. That's just poetic.
Yeah, the 2 times the behemoth went down were to headshots, which is really the only way to put it down. It's got so much armor that getting through one of those torsos is the hard, long way to go about it, which I think he almost did by the end of that match.
Hmm.
I think I
Yeah.
had like one or two internal left on a torso. And if I lost the torso, I would have been forced to withdraw. But going to the head was the only way to kill the mech when he happened to do it on the very last turn, which was beautiful.
Yeah, that does look like that was a hell of a fight.
Yeah. So that was round four for both of us. Now, would you like to talk about how you placed? I mean, granted, he did announce the top three in the podium. I ended up third based on combat and objective score. So I think I performed pretty well considering how big of a player pool we had. I mean, you don't have to announce where you placed, but you can if you want to, Pirate. It's confidential.
Oh, it's confidential. So I definitely didn't place in top three. I'm pretty sure because I didn't ask either because it's kind of one of those, you know, if I don't know, it can be any place I want it to be. So mathematically, I think I probably, because I know what your points were and I know what my points were, I probably placed somewhere in the top 10. And I'm pretty happy with that because this wasn't a try hard list. I didn't bring the meanest, baddest, nastiest thing to come and try to curb stomp everybody because that's not fun. I wanted to bring something that was, interesting and unique. And for the objective that I set when I entered the tournament, I'm pretty sure I nailed that. And it placed really well for what was totally outside my normal play style. I like light mechs, I like fast mechs, I like high gunnery and glass cannons. I don't necessarily like chonk. So for what I set out to do when I started the tournament, I'm pretty happy with where I placed.
Yeah, you definitely got out of your comfort zone with your chonky boys, and you basically proved a concept. You can get away with 6-6 pilots and still perform very well. I mean, you easily were top 10, I'm sure, going what 3-1.
Oh
Yeah, so
yeah.
you had to be top 10 with that kind of score.
And
Hands down.
two of those matches were basically tablings, and the other two were, you know, one was pretty brutal on the kills, the other one was a slight combat win. But yeah, it was two good matches and two decent matches, so yeah, it was pretty decent.
Yeah, so it definitely performed well. It was performed a lot better than I was expecting, realistically.
Uh,
When I saw you go with those 6-6 pilots to begin with, I was like, "Oh, I don't know about that. That ain't gonna work. He's never gonna hit anything."
you,
And you proved me wrong real quick.
you know when you roll the dice and you're like, all right, I got 4 shots on 10s. You know, I'm just going to take this. Why not? Oh my God, they're all 10s and 12s. It's kind of how I felt with this list, which was I was expecting to place bottom half just because it is so weird and different, and surely I'm missing something. Nobody takes 6.6 pilots. Everybody trashes on lowering your gunnery. In fact, when you take a 7.7 even, it's basically considered like you must be doing something extremely cheesy because that pilot is worthless. But then I found a way to make those pilots pretty damn deadly.
Oh yeah, it was definitely proof of concept, and I think your list was definitely the most interesting out of all of them. 6.6 on
Thank you.
3 assault clan mechs, and you definitely performed well above what everybody was expecting you to. I mean, like I said, the proof of concept made me rethink the way I go about list building
Oh,
as a whole. I mean, 3.4 was my basis before this, and now I'm like, maybe I can get away with 3.5. I mean, 6.6 performed pretty well.
somewhere, someone out there is internally screaming about, no, 5 sucks. So, but
Oh yeah, I can. In fact, I've heard that more than once after people have seen my list. I'm planning to bring to NashCon.
um, so I know you placed third.
Yes, that is correct. I do believe that Memo placed first and Snowy got second. They actually performed very well. They beat me by, I think, 30 points on combat and some extra on objective. So even if I did score max on the probe mission for the objective, I still would have gotten third regardless. So they definitely earned their top spots. And it's
Um,
nice to see new faces in the top of the tournament, which is what Vapor was aiming to do with Solaris 7, which Pirate and I are not in the pool of players. We are stable masters for that tournament. We're still playing each other, but we're not in the running for first place of the tournament.
and I still owe you a game, Justy, so I fully intend on tabling you with some ghosty, spirity boys.
I
Um,
mean, very well you may, especially the way my dice have been rolling lately.
so let's, I don't I don't know much about Memo's list, but I've seen Memo commenting on the Discord, and luckily you have the list available. I see those wheels turning.
Yes. Like,
Um,
aha, we have the technology.
but I've seen Memo posting a lot about very specific mechanics and very specific theory crafting and tactics. So I know even though he's new to MRC, he definitely has a lot of experience from him, and he's actually I think he's based in Germany. So it was nice seeing we've got an international flair to some of the players here, but he definitely in retrospect, doesn't surprise me that he placed really well because he definitely looks like somebody who puts a lot of careful thought into his moves and list building.
Yeah, he played very well from what I heard. And I mean, look at his list. He's got a Wraith TR1, one of the most efficient mechs in the game. Gallo Glass, which was interesting. Longbow LBG or LGB 7V, and a Cerberus MR5M. He actually made a quote, I think, or was it Snowy Dude, for somebody else regarding the tournament, but I don't want to encroach on their territory.
No,
So
but I will say Snowy Dude did make a quote about the tormentors and feedback, and I've played Snowy Dude a few times, and he's definitely extremely sharp and also a very careful and tactical player. But seeing him raise the hood on a few things and his theory crafting that I hadn't seen him do before, yeah, that's made me rethink some of the ways I do list building now too.
yeah, he definitely had some good insight. You can look it up in the Discord. It should be archived there in the Tukkayid Heat channel for a little while longer. But he definitely raised the curtain on how he goes about list building and tactically planning his turns and shots and stuff. So definitely a very good player. I played him, I think, once, and I do believe he beat me. It was like a practice match or something, but he was surprisingly good for a newer MRC player. I do remember that. But he's definitely not a new Battletech player, which are two completely different things, as Memo and Snowy have just proven.
Agreed. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them grow with us or seeing new people rise up to take the challenge on the next few tournaments.
Yeah, definitely. So, with that being said, we've gone through all the rounds, we've gone through the podium. How did you feel about the tournament as a whole? Was there anything you changed? Was there anything that stood out to you? I know Sam actually posted quite a bit of statistics, like the number of mechs that were used more than once and all that, and uh, factions, how many people chose what faction, which was surprisingly very few repeats.
Well, it's a nice soupy era. It's clan invasion, so there's a lot that's shared across multiple uh, swim lanes and MULs. It doesn't get into the Republic of the Sphere mercenary BS that we get to later. Not knocking on Merc and Republic players, but y'all's MULs start looking like we just said, hey, Republic's gone, everybody gets everything now.
Yeah,
Um,
there's like 1,000 battle mechs in the Merc list or Republic list. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I get why it's that way, but it was definitely interesting to see the variety of factions played. I think the biggest things for me to take away was this tournament was run different than the previous ones. So somebody's flair coming in here, very different than the way Vapor ran it, very different than the way Carbon and Warning ran the previous ones. And it's not a apples to apples. This is like, I'm going to call it apples to bananas. It was different. It was a different style, but there were several things that I really loved about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it tasted quite good.
oh yeah, and I've heard multiple people saying this. The way it was run sets the bar pretty high. I know tournament that, or not tournament, but the event that I'll be running in July, Operation Klondike. So shameless plug here. Go check it out on the MRC Discord. Is not going to have that same level of preparation just from lack of TO time, but it definitely gives me some tools and housekeeping that I can do to make the event as a whole run really smooth.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I'm planning on running an event in the far future, maybe October-ish. We'll see, because I've got a lot going on right now, going to NashCon and then other stuff.
Yeah.
Doing YouTube videos and the like. So eventually, I'll be running an event. I'm planning on doing all vehicles when that does come around, but it's going to be different from everybody else's. And Sam did offer to do some of the stuff he did for his tournament, like make the score sheet, which I probably will take him up on because I have no idea how to do that stuff. And it was so nice and efficient to have that that I can't imagine running a tournament without it.
Oh yeah. I will say the score sheet was innovative and a new thing, and we already talked about the score sheet, but that was definitely like memorable taking out of this, and it made the whole event run really well.
Oh yeah, definitely. You knew exactly where you were as soon as you put your score in to your sheet. It told you how many points you had. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yep. Doing pods instead of just here's your opponent for the week was another thing to get matches set up quickly, and that was another thing I really enjoyed was having 2 weeks to get two matches done rather than 7 days period, 7 days period. Because what if, hey, Friday and Saturday are my gaming nights, except my kid's sick. What am I going to do with this situation? Oh wait, I have a re-roll for next Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, that was really big. I mean, one of the takeaways from that is that you can't do Swiss in this format, which I'm a big proponent of Swiss, but I'm willing to sacrifice, you know, availability, flexibility for doing Swiss for the first 2 rounds. I think it was a fair trade because he basically went sort of Swiss, I think, after the cut for the first group to the second group.
Yep. And I also really like the pre-generated maps. Everything we had done at MRC before this was either pre-gener or randomized maps. Sorry, not even that. Random generated maps in MegaMech or local in-person events where someone is bringing a very set map sheet, but you don't know what it is in advance. In this case, using MegaMech, but also using map sheets that were human designed, so there's at least some logic to it, that everybody can pull up and have an in-person experience that mirrors the online experience, I thought was smart.
Yeah, I agree. Having the map pool available and you being able to pick which map you wanted that would suit your list was definitely one of the bigger pluses.
Um, and I really enjoyed the probe mission because again, wild card objective we talked about. Um, there's not a whole lot I would do different, and I'm really scrounging to think of anything. The one thing we didn't talk about was this was limited to battle mech manual only ammo types and rules. So some of the rules we normally turn on, like careful stand or stack polling, those weren't turned on, except for when they were by accident.
Yeah, and he did leave backwards movement up hills on because that's generally one we're all used to. I played a practice match without it, and I was like, "Oh God, what is this? This is terrible. This is completely screwed over my plans." And I'm thankful that he left at least that on, and some of the other common ones that we use. I think he turned on front-loaded initiative as
Uh,
well.
yeah, front-loaded initiative, and I really enjoyed front-loaded initiative because it made it feel less of a disadvantage to be short one, and it definitely probably made some people go, "Yeah, I could take two stingers, or I could actually take something that's going to do something," you know?
Yeah, two stingers or one wraith. Mm,
Yeah, with front-loaded initiative, you don't have to make that call to try to be one up on your opponent.
yeah, I definitely felt like this was very well ran. It's probably the smoothest tournament we've had and the biggest. For it being that many players and running that smooth, I can only take my hat off to you, Sam. Literally and figuratively, that was really well done. Thank you.
Yep, every TO puts work in, but you were definitely putting months of work in ahead of this, so we appreciate it. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah. With that being said, do you have any other final thoughts regarding the tournament, or the results? Anything going forward you want to talk about?
So Vapor definitely led the charge with, hey, we can do tournaments with MegaMeg. We don't have to rely on just MRC command. And Sam stood up this tournament. I think about the same time he was joining MRC command. Um, you and I both have red badges. I'm looking over and I see Nitro and Infield getting red badges. So I'm looking forward to this being like the, oh my gosh, this was such an amazing experience. That combined with the other things we have going on. Not that everybody's running an event every single time, but I'm looking forward to what I'm going to start calling event artists putting together an exquisite, event
Oh
for
yeah.
players.
Oh yeah, the bar has definitely been raised, and I think it's a good thing. Not to say anything was bad for Twilight Heat or March Madness, but having more efficient and better ran and smoother ran tournaments can only be good for the community going forward.
Yeah, and it was a lot of effort, and it shows.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember him fretting over the score sheet for like a month prior to going live.
But that's one of the highlights, and I've heard multiple people say this was the smoothest, you know, scoring experience. And realistically, even if you spend a ton of time on that, you're saving some time for the player. And guess what? The player playing games is really what you want to have happening as an event organizer.
Yeah, you want playing games to be as quick and painless as possible, and submitting ranked games as quick and painless as possible. Uh, and I think it was for this particular tournament.
Yeah, but those are my closing thoughts. Is there's a lot of new things we did. It was run really well. It's inspired a lot of people. A lot of people have joined in because of it, and I'm looking forward to the next one, Sam. But I think you deserve at least 6 months off after that. Good grief.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a lot of work you put in, but very well done, Sam. Thank you. I think that's gonna be it for us, unless you have anything else, Pirate.
No, I could ramble on for hours. The one thing I will say, backwards elevation, just because I remembered it, that one rule being turned on, I distinctly remember talking about that rule or hearing Carbon talk about it, and the quote of, they're mechs, they should be able to walk backwards. Uh, can't argue with that. So that stuck out with me as one of the few attack hop rules that we kept on, because, I mean, realistically, you're going to tell me an 85-ton war machine on legs can't step backwards?
Yeah, especially when it's tied into your sense of balance with the neural helmet. You should be able to walk
Mhm.
backwards up a slight incline.
Oh, yeah, so that little humorous thought jumped in, but otherwise, I'll ramble on the Discord and be happy to chat with more people there.
Yeah,
If
it's already getting.
anybody listening, go join that Discord if you're not already part of it, because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but we're real opening to new players, and would love to show you the other events that are coming up.
Yeah, and if you're a new player, Tukkayid Heat was a great starting point, but I mean, it's already passed, and there's no time better than now to start. There's ranked games, non-ranked games, practice matches, all kinds of stuff that you can do to get in on the action as a brand new player. And there's plenty of people that are willing to help you and guide you along the way. Trust me, I went through the new player experience, and I came out better for it. And look at me now.
Oh, I've only been playing since last July, so
Yeah, my first time playing realistically was I think November for Twilight Heat. So I mean, I'm waist deep in it now. So hopefully we get more people waist deep in it too as well.
absolutely.
All right. With that being said, I think that's going to be it for us for tonight. So thank you everybody for coming. Go ahead and say thank you, Pirate.
Yep, you don't get to tell me what to do, but I will say thank you to everyone.
That's fair. No, I don't. But good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time next week with another match, hopefully, of Solaris 7, going over someone's Solaris 7 match. If I can get footage of it. Maybe, hopefully. We'll see. All right. Goodbye.
Adios.